Okay, are we not live yet? Or we are live? I don't really know. YouTube, I'd like to know if I'm currently live. That it would be appreciated if you could tell me. Okay, my audio is good. Okay. Sorry, I just gotta check that. Am I live? Okay, we are live. YouTube's like, are we live, YouTube? I don't know. I don't know if we're live. I don't really know. Well, thanks. Great streaming service. Great streaming service that we got here on YouTube. I'm like questioning YouTube. Hey, are we actually live? Because OBS says we're live, but it took YouTube like a few seconds to like figure itself out whether it was actually functioning or not. And it always says that the stream connection is not good or is at best middling, but that always appears to be a lie. So allow me to find a link to this stream and send that out on social media before we actually get started here, because I wanted to talk about basically what I just said on Twitter, but what I've been thinking about for like the past few days. Because I've been trying to introduce this. I think I put this in my last commentary. I mentioned this in my last stream. What's going to be the title of this stream, which is Clown Decade. Because in my view, like, legitimately people are getting crazy. The difference is that I don't really know how old all of you are. I know that based on the analytics that most of you are pretty similar to my age. Some of you are a little older, and a decent portion of you are a little younger. But most of you aren't like 18. Most of you are in your 20s. And so the thing is that there's a little bit of a generational gap. But I grew up when George Bush was president. You know, I was born under Bill Clinton. But when I was growing up, it was essentially under George W. Bush. Like, I was still a kid when 9/11 happened. And in many ways, and for many people, like, 9/11 was a big deal for a lot of people. I'm not going to say that it was that big of a deal for me because I was a kid, and at the time, I legitimately did not understand what was happening. Even as a New Yorker living upstate, I didn't understand what was happening. And no one really at the time was very forthcoming with anything rational. You know, I recall when Howard Stern, after it happened, like, I think it might have been the same day, was saying that we should, like, nuke the entire Middle East. And I'm not even joking. People really kind of went crazy after 9/11, but I think that for a certain amount of people, on the left and the right, it basically altered the trajectory of the United States in a way that we're now dealing with today. I think that the older millennials that are typically on the left, one of the main causes for what they are now doing, what they believe, the infiltration and domination they have on subcultures and the rest, like the culture war, so to say, their influence in actual politics, but also the culture war, that in my view, that there's a decent amount of evidence to say that that was the cause, that was the thing that sent them on the trajectory to become what they are now. And I still submit to you that it's not simply that. It's academia, it's media. These things are powerful influences. But I think that for decent people that are slightly older than I am, in their 30s, that 9/11 had a very big impact on them. And unfortunately, it either did what it did to Gavin McInnes, who, it's the same story with Gavin McInnes. Gavin McInnes was a punk leftist and utterly flipped politically after 9/11. And it's true for, it wasn't true for Andrew Breitbart. For those of you that are more in line with the right, that know more about right-wing politics, it isn't, because I know it was for Bannon. Steve Bannon, 9/11 was another big deal for him, and he's like an old, a boomer. But I think Breitbart was another one. So I have a suspicion that one of the main reasons we're entering the clown decade. The volume's not good? How are we doing on the volume? I saw someone... The volume's not good? It should be loud enough. Yeah, it should be okay. Okay, volume's fine. Okay, I don't know. Sorry, you guys, you have to turn it up then. Okay. Anyways, I think that we're entering into the clown decade. And so let me find that tweet. Let me get that tweet. Okay, so this is the main tweet. So I'll just read this to start. Remember when the left thought America being the world's police force was fucking retarded and spent the entire second term of George W. Bush's presidency endlessly hounding his entire administration for overseas cowboy adventurism. This to me is in essence what, like, I've seen people that are leftists that are angry about the fact that we've pulled out of Syria. And the question that I have for them, and for just, I mean, this is not, it's like, it encapsulates a much broader issue, which is, what is our strategy going forward? What is our strategy? What do you not only expect out of us being in the Middle East for another 19 years, which is what it was in Afghanistan? 19 years. What are your expectations? And more importantly, it's the first question I asked, what is the fucking strategy? For crying out loud, if I have to, I'll have to find another search engine because you can't find this on Google. I looked it up the other day. I couldn't find it. We were backing Al-Qaeda in Syria through al-Nusra, which was an allied group with Al-Qaeda. We were backing Al-Qaeda in Syria. You don't think that screams of quagmire? You don't think that screams of there being no strategy? I mean, what is the goal? What is the end state in which we win that war? What is it? What even is it? Extreme Rampage in the chat. Extreme Rampage, I'm going to single you out because he said this about DuckDuckGo. Dude, I'm telling you, Google is actively censoring their results. There are articles, there are stories that I can no longer find using Google. It's irritating to no end, and it's insanely, I don't want to use the word Orwellian because it's overrated, but they're deleting internet from the web. Or information from the web, I should say. They're simply redacting information. So looking up the fact that we were backing Al-Qaeda, and that was an active strategy of the previous administration, and not just blame Obama. No, that was just the deep state. That was simply the Pentagon's plan. Let's just back Al-Qaeda in Syria because we want to put a pipeline in Syria. And that's the exclusive reason. It's not about saving the fucking Kurds or any of this other nonsense. It's about propping up an obsolete strategy. It's like, who gives a flying fuck about oil in Syria, in that pipeline? We're in the middle of a gas and fucking oil boom in the United States. This is a strategy for a bygone era when the Soviet Union fucking existed. We're operating on a goddamn foreign policy that's older than me. And I'm almost fucking 30. This is outmoded strategy that is simply like, it's just inertia. It's just momentum. It's like, this is so out of date, it's ridiculous. To where we're still in the mindset that backing jihadists is a good idea. It's unbelievable. So, when people that I think are intelligent people are saying that no, that should be our go-to, or it's not even like They agree with that strategy. The question then is, it begs the fucking question, if you don't want to be there backing al-Nusra and al-Qaeda, then what the fuck is your strategy? Back the Kurds? Why the fuck would we do that? Why in the world would you back one fucking tribe? Why? When they're likely just as fucking radical as all the rest. They're not the good guys. And if you believe otherwise, what the fuck is your evidence? Seriously. I get, Bashar al-Assad is not a friend to the United States, even at its most practical. He's not a friend, but just because you're not a friend to the United States doesn't mean you're an imminent threat. Okay? Russia is not a friend to the United States. But do I think we need to be doing proxy wars and all kinds of bullshit with Russia? Fucking no! All the while we're ignoring China. And to our own detriment. And I see this in a commentary I recorded today that I hope to have time tomorrow to work on. We'll see if that happens. I recorded a commentary talking about all this today. That is slightly more incoherent than what I'm saying now. But I think I'll put that out anyways. Just because I want it on the record that, we're entering in clown. We're like, here, this is going to be the beginning. I already have the beginning picked for that video. And this should play. Make it bigger for you to see. Oh, it won't be bigger, but this is the biggest. Like, let me turn it down so it's not so fucking loud. This is going to be the beginning of my next video. For those of you who've seen the movie, you already know the scene. So I don't want to get copyright struck, so I'll stop it there. This is fucking clown world shit. Like, what? How do you expect me to react? How do you expect me to react to this world in which we're now entering, where the fucking leftists are out there screaming about, no, we need more intervention in the Middle East? Like, what? Like, people are talking about NATO and fucking Turkey when it's like, yeah, Turkey's not a good nation. There's a good chance they probably shouldn't be in NATO. But we're not going to go to war with them. We can't. We can't actually go to war with NATO. Okay? We have diplomatic agreements with them. If we violate those, then fucking NATO is a joke. Like, exactly what? Like, you either want us to have a proxy war with Turkey, or you want us to go to war. And the question is, with who? With who? Do you want us backing Syria when they're an enemy? Do you like, what the fuck is your strategy? It's unbelievable. Like, there are no good actors in this equation, and you think we need to be fucking around in it? What purpose does it fucking serve? It really is, it is fucking ridiculous. And I'm just lost. I'm simply lost by the sheer level of cognitive dissonance where they don't see this. They don't see, like, dude, when I was growing up, it was just conventional wisdom at the time that intervention in the Middle East was a fool's errand. That it was one of the biggest mistakes of the new century, was fucking around in the Middle East. Like, that was everyone's opinion in, like, 2006, 2007, 2008. Everyone. I mean, that was one of the main reasons people were, like, singing the praises of Barack Obama. Barack 7 incursions Obama. That was like a reason to vote for Democrats, was let's not intervene in the fucking world. And meanwhile, here we are in 2019, entering into the clown decade. Okay, all of this has been ramping up to what I think is going to happen in 2020. I think starting next year, things are going to be fucking insane because they're not slowing down. They're only ramping up. Let me find you an example of what I'm talking about. Let me find it. Yeah, this Antifa guy died. Let me see if I could find a picture. I can't find it. Some Antifa guy died, and Antifa went crazy, and they attacked the Democratic office. Let me see if I can find it. I can't find it. If someone in the chat knows what I'm talking about, send it to me on Twitter. There was some kind of conference or panel or something that happened, and Antifa attacked a Democratic office. If you know what I'm talking about, send me that article or send me a link to that. Because I can't find it. Tim Pool has a video. Let me I'll look that up. Do you know what channel he's on? I'll go on his Twitter. Let me see if I can find it. Because I know he's been talking a lot about the NBA, and he's right for doing so. Because that is its own story. Like, I want to do a video on the NBA, but I just don't know if I'll have time, because that is such a big story. It's because the thing is, I don't know how much I want to talk about it, because that is its own video, to be sure. I don't see it on his Twitter account. I just see Antifa attacking people. I'm talking, they like graffitied and like fucked up a Democratic office. Yeah, if one of you has that, send it to me on Twitter, please. Because I don't see it on Tim's account. But in relation to NBA, with the NBA, that to me is the culture war. That is the culture war. People can say whatever they want to about the culture war and it's so trite and SJWs and the rest of it. The NBA is just another part of the culture war. It absolutely has to do. You remember, for those of you that have watched me for a while, and many of you have watched me for a while, do you recall when I've talked about the particular pillars of international relations, the things that are important to international relations: military, economic, cultural, and diplomatic? That those pillars are what gives a nation power in the world. What's happening to the NBA, what's happening to Blizzard, what's happening to the United States, what's happening to Google, what's happening to Facebook, what's happening to all these different companies in terms of censorship, in terms of kowtowing to the Chinese, in terms of LeBron James being like, well, no one ever asked me about nothing about the NBA. I'm just here to dribble the ball and make money. That is culture. That is the Chinese having direct cultural influence over the United States. And if you don't think so, you have no concept of international relations. So, I'm right about China. And I've said this in the past, that sooner or later, China would have direct influence over us. And more in the same way that the Japanese do over our entertainment, so will the Chinese. And I'm telling you that what's happening with the NBA, what's happening to Blizzard, what's happening to all these different corporations, this is just the beginning. And that's why I say that we're ramping up to the clown decade. Because you will see more and more direct influence in our media, in our entertainment, and in sports and the rest of it. In American culture, you will see more influence, direct influence, from the Chinese government. This is just the beginning of that. And this is what I mean. Like, it's highly important to pay attention to every one of the aspects I named in terms of international relations. You can't just be, I'm Ben Shapiro, the economy is all there is. I'm Jonah Goldberg, the economy is all there is. I'm David French. Fuck everything else other than economy. That's all that matters. And even there, we're not winning exactly when we're in trade negotiations where the Chinese are not negotiating. Even there, where they think it matters, it's not the only aspect. Military is not dependent on economy. You can always do more to the economy to drive more revenue in order to have a larger military budget. Military is important, but economy is not the sole factor. It's not even, in my view, the most important. In my view, the most important is cultural. If you control the corporations through their corporate culture, if you control entertainment, if you control everything, you control politics. Politics is downstream from culture. If you directly influence the everyday minds of the everyday citizen through their entertainment, through their news, through everything, you will influence how they vote. And that is a strategy of the Chinese government. That's the reason you have Tencent buying all these different companies, investing in all these companies, because every one of these major companies have some direct control by the Chinese government. So, I mean, do you think they're just doing it for the sake of just making money and that alone? I don't fucking think so. They're investing in the NBA, they're investing in the NFL, they're investing in movies, they're investing in video games, they're investing in every single one of these institutions in America because they know that affects not just us but other nations in the world, and the more control they have over that, the more they have over us and every other person that views it. This is about hegemony. This is about power. This is about influence in the world. And if you think otherwise, if you think, oh no, it's just military, oh, it's just diplomatic, oh, this is just economy, you're fucking retarded. You don't understand the bare basics of power and influence in the world. And I'm telling you, I'm no genius. I'm no exception. This is 101 level shit in terms of understanding the way the world works. This is real politic. This is the way the world works and has always worked. There's never been a time, no matter what has changed in terms of international relations, whether it's polarity, the difference between multipolar, bipolar, unipolar, which is the current model, regardless of whether it's back in World War I, it's the Cold War, or it's now, it doesn't fucking matter. That has always been true about this world, are those aspects to it. If you can, just because you have military superiority doesn't mean shit. If your economy is trashed, you're being outcompeted in every conceivable way, your culture is falling apart, your society is dissolving into clown world, and your enemies have direct influence over you in friendly nations, your allies, so-called, you don't think that gives them more influence over all the rest? Militaries are still staffed by people. Economies are still composed of people and their interest in what they're purchasing. Diplomacy is all influence in relationships between people representing nations. When you neglect one, you might as well neglect them all. And in the United States, this is the main reason why the culture war matters. It's the main reason why Gavin McInnes is a culture warrior. Steve Bannon is a culture warrior. Carl Benjamin is a culture warrior. I am a culture warrior. This matters in the world. And the only people that are going to try to contradict that are the leftists who are fucking lying about it. Those are the only ones that are going to contradict me and what I have to say. The people that are lying about it because they know it to be true and they think they have the power. They think they control the influence. That's the only reason they have to lie, is they know that they're the ones in they're the ones behind the lever. You know, they're behind the curtain. So that's why I talk about this. That's why I think that this matters. Even though I don't do this full time, I have the strong urge to talk about it because if we're just willing to concede to China in the way that the NBA is, and the way that Blizzard is, and the way that all these different corporations are, and entities and organizations, and even Hollywood is gearing many of their movies towards the Chinese audience. I've seen it's not just me, the culture warrior. I've seen Red Letter Media, them address that in several different movies where they say this movie is obviously geared to the Chinese audience. The last one I saw them, I recall anyway, is I was about to say Tom Clancy. That's not it. Tom Cruise. It was a Tom Cruise movie. It may have been the Mummy movie. I can't quite remember. For those of you that are Red Letter fanatics, you recall this. But certain movies coming out of Hollywood are geared towards a Chinese audience because they make far more money there than they do domestically. So what do you think that is? You think that's just, for the sake of economics? You think that's just for the sake of profit? When you have an American company gearing an entire movie based on a foreign audience, you don't... Oh, yeah, Top Gun sequel as well. So that's 2 Tom Cruise movies. You think it's just going to stop with censoring some patches on a jacket of Tom Cruise for the sequel to Top Gun? Or them changing lines in the Mummy movie or whatever the fuck it was for the foreign audience? You think it's just going to stop there? You don't think there's going to be any kind of reciprocal exchange in terms of culture? You don't think there's going to be any kind of direct influence? Because I guarantee you there will be, because that's always been true of humanity. The minute a culture sees itself as catering, or not even sees itself, but does cater to a foreign entity, a foreign culture, it is becoming indentured to it. Because corporations are based on, public ones anyways, the big ones, they predict their profitability. One of the big models for big corporations, and anyone with any sense of finance will tell you this is basic knowledge, that they will project their future profits based on the assets they have currently. We've made Call of Duty for the past 10 years, and we've made this many tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and sold these many copies. This is how many copies we expect to sell, so we can project that in our quarterly earnings. They can project profit based on existing assets and previous iterations of what they've sold in the past. It's one of the reasons why you see so many sequels nowadays, is profitability, projecting that. It makes the company look profitable and good and competent to the shareholders and the investors. In my view, what's happening with the movie industry in China, it's that. It isn't simply that it's just, whatever, short-term thinking. It is long-term thinking. These are long-term investments. I mean, they're gearing franchises towards foreign audiences. You don't think there's some planning going into that? So it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And I see somebody just referenced in Disney. Disney's doing that too. Yeah, absolutely. The funny part of it is with Disney is that they bombed with Star Wars in China. They actually did very poorly with... it may have been The Force Awakens, but for sure The Last Jedi. They bombed in China. Yes, people in the chat are correct. They're co-opting Hollywood to push propaganda. Yes, that is in fact what they are doing. They're kowtowing now. Eventually, it will just be outward propaganda. They will just propagandize in their films. And how long do you think it'll be? I mean, do you think that it's in the future? I mean, it is a political push now, but do you think that do you expect China, now that they have direct influence, do you expect them to push fuck America more or less? What are your expectations? Those of you that have any kind of intelligence, that have seen what's gone on. Do you think China is going to be more in favor of influencing the United States to make fuck America movies, or less inclined to make fuck America movies? What do you think? I have an inkling of an idea of what's going to happen as a direct result of this, because we're already doing it. We're already doing it, by the way. You already see this happening in movies, commonly. So I only expect it to become more common. So that's this whole deal is why I'm trying to coin. And maybe you guys in the chat can help me workshop this. Oh, thank you. Fuck Europhiles. Thank you for this. I love my subscribers, because they always are very reticent of what's going on. People talk about high info and low info, but I find that, I'm not trying to blow smoke of my own audience, but a lot of you guys that follow me, you seem to be on par with following all this shit, despite living your own lives. So This is a good article. Thank you for sending me this, Europhiles. This is exactly what I was talking about. I'm trying to basically... Oh, I don't want... It's probably going to be loud. Ah! Sorry. They're always loud. So, okay. Here you go. 3 arrows. You have Antifa. You have anarchy signs. What does that say? Does that say Republicans? Does that say right-wingers? Does that say Proud Boys? Does that say, you know, young Republicans or whatever else? What does that say? Now, I want you to think about this. So dumb people, stupid people are going to look at this and say, oh, this is the intolerant left yet again. You know, oh, man, you know, I thought, what's the line? So much for the tolerant left. Dumb people are going to see this and say this. But allow me to quickly, I know I just played this, but I'm going to play it again. This is my explanation of what this is. Right here. Okay, ready? Hold on, let me put this in sync. Okay, I can't play it because I don't own the movie yet. Otherwise, I would. This is not a non-story. Okay, this is hard evidence of the lunatics running the asylum. If you think this is limited to one event, you're fucking crazy. This is the lunatics taking over the party. This is the left wing taking over the party by force. They are destroying the party. And no one's stopping them. No one's resisting them. Nothing is actually preventing this this from happening. Like, I think people are really looking past this event and misunderstanding the degree in which that. Hold on a second, Mr. Green, stop spamming the chat. No spamming. This is more than a single story. And I'm telling you that this is leading up to something. This is leading up to something. It may be just one story, but I'm telling you that this is all going somewhere. And I want to be very clear that when you're displaying, like, the 3 arrows here, like, some of you might not actually know this reference. This is a very Politico fucking wonk style reference. But the 3 arrows are a fucking anti-communist communist group. They are a communist group. They like to portray themselves as, oh, we're simply anti-fascists. We're the anti-fascist socialists. No, you're just communists. You can claim that you're not, but you are. You are communists. Every fucking left-wing anarchist wants to pretend that they're not a fucking communist, but they support all of the same things that communists do. One-to-one, everything, including the abolition of property ownership. I'm sorry, but you're no different to Stalin. You're no different. It's just that Stalin is a more effective communist than you. You're the guy that gets ice-picked by Stalin. But you're nonetheless a communist. And I can tell you that one of the main reasons why I quit the Democratic Party is this kind of shit. I mean, look at this shit. Look at this.
ACAB, all cops
Look at this! I mean, yeah, we're not... We're not fucking fascists. We're just standing out of a political office with flares in our hands as we fucking vandalize it. I know you guys aren't doing this in a beer hall. You're doing it in a Starbucks, but it's nonetheless fucking authoritarian. It's nonetheless dangerous and something that I in no way want to be a part of. It's just amazing to me that so many people are willing to overlook what's happening, what is so evidently happening to the left in the United States and across the West, really, but in the United States specifically, in the context of my own politics, my own wheelhouse, so to say, this is so evidently happening. And the party is doing nothing to slow this down. Like, it is becoming the Labour Party in Britain. It is just becoming a socialist party. Like, they're spraying anarchist and socialist iconography over your buildings, symbolizing their conquering of you. You don't think that this speaks to the fact that the party is falling apart completely? You don't think that it speaks absolutely to the fact that you've let these people in and they're now turning against you? That, like, their entire purpose is to just burn everything to the ground because they think that the country's inherently evil? Like, if you just concede their position that the country's evil, how do you think this is going to turn out? Like, what exactly do you think is going to happen in this scenario where you just agree to their terms? You know what I mean? What do you think is going to happen to this? Wow, I got so wrapped up in talking I didn't tweet out the stream. That's embarrassing. Sorry about that. So I'll get to some super chats now that we've hit a lull and I've stopped talking. Row Crusader says you're a gooch. Not sure what you mean by that. Odd Dog says pull out game not that strong. Not sure what you mean by that, Odd Dog. Melody says I'm glad I caught you live, Louis. Keep up the good work. Enjoy your videos. Thank you, Melody. Sam says NBA betting over made boomer normies realize China for the threat the greatest generation said it was. Yeah, I mean, I even said it to my I had dinner with my family tonight, and I talked a little bit about that with my father. And he didn't really have too much to say about it. I pretty much just joked about it, and I say, you should feel lucky that you're not an NBA fan because it's currently it's just killing its own brand at the moment. And I said, like, anyone who considers himself to be a patriot, you should be appalled by what the NBA is doing. And I said this because it's true that there are people in basketball that can't keep their mouths shut about politics when it comes to saying fuck America, fuck Trump, injustices everywhere, and you got to call it all out like fucking LeBron did. And then the minute he gets that check, he tastes that money, he shuts his fucking mouth for China. Because in China, they don't tolerate shit. If you speak out against the Chinese government, you're either out of a job, in the untouchable caste system, through the social credit system, or you're in a fucking jail cell. You think, I mean, I have met some Chinese people, and I've met some Asians too, and they are the most racist people that you will meet. And I'm not saying that in a fashion to be, I don't know, I'm not saying it to be flippant, but I am saying that I've met Hispanic people, I've met plenty of black people, and they can be racist, and white people, and I've met white people that were legitimately racist. Asian people are racist, and they don't give a fuck about that fact. So whenever you see, like, Asians in America running around saying like, oh, you know, white supremacy and white privilege and blah, blah, blah. I guarantee you that kid is probably some millennial, Zoomer, faggot, fucking upper middle class kid, and their parents and their grandparents are racist as any fucking Klansman. I guarantee it, because I've met some Asians in my time, older ones, and they're fucking racist, and they pull no punches in that fact. I have seen, you can go look this up online, you will see Asians calling black people niggers. Go look it up. Go look it up. Especially in urban centers. You'll see it. And if you think they're any less racist overseas, oh my God, do you have another thing? Dude, I've known people that have worked in China. Okay? Asians don't even like whites. Generally speaking, they don't actually like whites. What do you think their opinion is of blacks and others? Do you think they're going to be giving them the benefit of the fucking doubt when they don't even do it for white Westerners? Oh man, you got another thing coming. So, yeah, I did see what LeBron said. I have seen what LeBron said. It was fucking insane. Anyways, so yeah, the NBA's, like, I want to do a video on it, but I'm kind of on a time crunch still with everything. But the NBA story, it is just another front in the culture war. And I'm telling you, this is all ramping up. If you think that in 2020, this shit's going to stop, I'm telling you, no, whatever it is, November 6th, November 4th, I'd have to look it up. I can't even remember. I'm telling you, 2020, it's going to ramp up and up and up, and it is going to be the beginning of the clown decade. I am telling you, things are going to be off the fucking chain next year. Everything, this is all leading up to something. I'm telling you. And I'm not saying, oh, you know, Tim Pool, Civil War, donate to me on Subscribestar, Civil War. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that the culture war is broadening. It is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not getting smaller, and people can say, oh, the SJWs, blah, blah. Bro, we're moving from the SJWs to communist China in the culture war. It is expanding. It is getting crazier. Well, it's so pedantic to be talking about the SJWs. Okay, well, how about the fucking Chinese government then? Is that bad enough for you? Oh, leftists at college campuses, that's all you have to complain about? Okay, well, now we have you have the entire NBA organization basically getting down on one knee and kissing the feet of Xi Jinping, or whatever the fuck his name is. You know, the dictator of China. They're on their hands and knees kissing at his toes. Like it's the Pope and some Muslims. You don't think there's something to talk about there? You don't think that that's fucking insane? Brett says, got cripple, retired from the army, and missed out on the past 6 years of this culture war stuff. Getting caught up now. What the fuck? I missed my blue pill. I'm sorry to hear that, Brett. And it's funny that you're now on disability from the army, and you're following an insurance investigator. There's some level of irony there. I hope you appreciate. Cows are big. Here are some shekels, friend. Your Bernie Gibbs video made me laugh so hard my face hurt. Then I got pissed off. Job well done. Keep it up. Thank you. Cows are big. I'm glad. My goal here is to be mainly entertaining, but also to argue, I believe, the good word, so to say. I know that means I'm preaching to the choir, but I think that's my objective here on YouTube. It's not to get down in the nitty-gritty and do the slow, monotone, monotonous videos that go through every detail and pick apart every argument. Like there is legitimate value in those kind of videos, because those values or the point of those videos are not to do anything as it relates to me. They're not to entertain you or I. Those videos are to deconvert the ideologues and the people that have been swept up into the left-wing nonsense. Like, if these people come to my videos, there are some that are going to be persuaded by my videos, but those are going to be few and far between to those that say, like, oh, this guy's some, right-wing incel fucking asshole, some Proud Boy, Trump supporting dickhead, whatever. And even in my most recent video that I recorded that I'm hoping to edit tomorrow, I lambast Trump as being like a failed game show host, like a billionaire that is served so much by his own ego that he thirsts after a mainstream audience on national television by doing goofy reality shows. And yet, as it relates to every president in my lifetime, I can't think of one that I support more than him where it matters. Now, does that mean that I support every fucking thing he says and I'm out there, wearing my Trump hat, which I own? Am I, nailing the Trump 2020 sign in my yard and putting a bumper sticker on my SUV? No, I'm not doing any of those things. But on the culture war front, on the trade war front, on the immigration front, and all the others, if it isn't Trump, who the fuck is it? That to me is the question. It's like, well, okay, sure, to hell with Trump. Okay, now that we've gotten rid of Trump, now who are we going to? Now who's the face of nationalism? Who's the face of the fight against China? Who's the face against any of this? Because Donald Trump from the very beginning has been screaming at the top of his lungs about China. Rightly so. And here we are, where you have corporation after corporation, institution after institution, icon after icon bending to knee to a fucking dictatorship 7,000 miles away, or however far it is. It's actually probably more. But if you don't think that people aren't reticent to the reality around them, and that's one of the main reasons they support this fucking guy, then you aren't paying attention. You're in your own echo chamber. Like, you claim that's everybody else but you, but it's not simply Trump's brashness or whatever that has people supporting him. It's the fact that everyone in this fucking country is losing their minds. People can say whatever, Trump-tards and all this other bullshit. It's like, well, if I don't support Trump, who the fuck am I supposed to then? The only person from the Democrats that makes any kind of sense is Tulsi Gabbard, and she's still pushing all the socialist bullshit. She's still pushing all that garbage. Half the time she makes sense, half the time she doesn't. And the thing is, I think she's genuine. She seems to be like a decent actor in that way. But she's 1% of the polls. And I think that speaks to a larger problem with the Democratic Party. I mean, if you in an ideal world, okay, here's an ideal setting. All right, just follow me for a second. In an ideal world, if I were still a Democrat, the Democrat that would be my main interest probably at this point would be, oh my God, I just blanked on her fucking name. The former prosecutor from California. Somebody in the chat shouted out. What's her fucking name? I can't believe I just blanked on her name. She's also like 1% or 3% of the polls at this point. Someone shout her out in the chat for me. Kamala Harris. Thank you, chat. Kamala Harris is a brutal prosecutor. She is someone that clearly lacks compassion. And if she was telling the truth, if she actually was true to what she believed, she would be one of the people that would be up there saying, well, yeah, we need to cut all these different social welfare programs. They don't work. And we don't need prison reform. Because in actuality, if you're in prison, you committed a crime. And rather than spend 24/7 shitting on police for just doing their job, as imperfect as they may be, they're never going to be perfect. And one of the problems that we currently have is, and she could say this as a minority, technically, that it's not, white skinheads running around sig-heiling and attacking people. That's 1% of the country doing probably less than 1% of the crime. But there's a certain 6% of the country that's responsible for 50% of the serious crime. And that is the elephant in the room that only a minority at this point in the country can tackle. And someone who is Kamal the cop, she can tackle that. She's the one that can address that. And she is ultimately, if she wasn't a Clintonite fucking liar, she would probably be the Democrat that would be most aligned with what I would respect. Because when Trump is like, oh, there's so many problems in America with women. There's so many problems. We need to talk more about Israel. What's going on in Israel currently? Frankly speaking, we need to intervene more in Israel. Okay, what does Israel think about this problem? Okay, I love immigrants. We need more immigrants to America. America is made of immigrants. We love our immigrants. Trump does the shit that is utterly ridiculous. It's like anyone who considers themselves to be a nationalist should not be hand-wringing about how much they love a foreign nation. They should not be screaming at the top of their lungs how much they love our over $1 million a year fucking immigration rate, which is one of the main reasons why this country's culture is fucking unraveling. We can't handle the sheer amount of people we're bringing in. And yet, Trump is out there going, we love our immigrants. And the Republican Party is not at all tackling legal immigration. They can be up there screaming, build a wall they want. Well, Jesus Christ, what about the over $1 million a year we're bringing in year over year? How about that? So yeah, with the drug war, I understand that my point on Kamala Harris is going to be controversial, but I'm simply saying that why should Trump be up there talking about Democratic planks? Why should he be up there talking about prison reform? Because frankly, I don't, if you're some fucking drug dealer in a jail cell, why do I give a shit? Why? I need the explanation. Well, it's wrong. You shouldn't be in jail for dealing drugs because marijuana should be legal. Okay, fine. How many people are we actually going... Like, here's the thing, though. Did they still commit a crime knowingly? Yes. Do they still deserve to be in jail for knowingly committing a crime? Yes. Were they still operating within a black market? Knowingly. And that's how they knew they were making money? Yes. Is it immoral? Yes. Should they be in jail? Yes. There is no question about that, and I'm not wavering on that. We should not be letting people out of prison for that reason. Oh, we're now changing our mind on legalization of marijuana. Because as it is now, people are not going to fucking prison for possession. They're going to prison for possession with intent to distribute. That is what they're going to prison for. So to say that we need to be letting those people out en masse, open the fucking prisons? Fuck off. That's some anarchist bullshit. Go take that up with the fucking Green Party, for crying out loud. That's not even, there shouldn't even be a plank for the Democratic Party. That's a plank of the fucking Greens. So why are Republicans talking about it? I legitimately don't want to hear about prison reform. I want to hear about law enforcement reform. We're no longer looking the other way for property crimes like all these prosecutors are now. There's a prosecutor in Buffalo that said they're now looking the other way on property crimes. Well, what the fuck is that? It's simply the system trying to address the 650 situation. That's all it is. And that's all prison reform is. Prison reform, prosecutors looking the way on property crimes, all of this is the system trying to address 650. That's all it is. It's the system trying to be dad. And I'm sorry, I don't want the system to discriminate and be father. I want it to enforce the fucking law, regardless of what it is. And if the law is unjust and society wants it to change, then fucking change it. We have a goddamn representative republic. If we can put gay marriage on a referendum, why the fuck can't you put weed on a referendum? Or gambling on a referendum? Or prostitution on a referendum? You know, this is either a representative republic or it isn't. We should not be having prosecutors in the legal system, in the incarceration system, or politicians basically going, well, I don't even, fuck it, let's just not enforce the fucking laws. Let's just enforce it willy-nilly. Because ultimately, whether you want to accept it or not, that fundamentally damages belief in the system. That has people looking at the system saying, you know, either you're discriminating in some way, you have unfair expectations of different people, you're enforcing laws differently for different people based on their skin color, and there's some truth to it. But it's not in the, oppression, you know, I didn't do nothing, bro. I didn't do nothing. It's just a bigoted police department. When it's like, oh no, because of 650, let's just start looking the other way on property crimes. No. My answer is no. And that to me is why I say Kamala Harris, if she was actually true to what she believes, and in my view, that is what she believes. I think that beneath all her bullshit, Hillary Clinton triangulation, pandering bullshit, that is what she believes. No, I have met prosecutors. They are the least compassionate people I have ever met. So you think she believes any of that bullshit, didn't do nothing garbage? No fucking way. Kamala the cop is brutal. She is a fucking Darwinist in her heart. But she is a Hillary Clinton triangulator. What is palatable that I can use here? What is palatable that I can use there? This is what I espouse that I believe, but it's not really what she believes. And that's why I would never vote for her, because she's a fucking liar. And she'd probably do what Clinton would do. Clinton would pander to the left as the Democratic Party has done. Yeah, fearless leader, I agree with you. Harris only believes in power. That's the Clintonite model. You're correct, fearless leader. That's why I would not vote for her. She has no principles. But what I want though, is just that. You know, if she's going to be a prosecutor that runs for office, just be a prosecutor. I mean, at least with Chris Christie was an opportunist, loudmouth, discompassionate asshole. But at least he was who he was. I mean, he did pander in that. Chris Christie is not someone I would have voted for, and still wouldn't. But he was a fucking asshole. And that's who he was the entire fucking time. So at least he's honest in that capacity. He was and always was a fucking asshole. But that's what I expect of a prosecutor. Okay, sorry, get back to Super Chats. I apologize, but I'm telling you, if you ever meet some prosecutors, what's the name of the villain from not Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto 5? Somebody shouted out in the chat. What's the name of the villain in the main villain, the rich guy, the antagonist? What's the name of that guy? Someone shouted out. Devin something. Yeah, it's what is it? I want to say Devin Tracy, but that's atheism is unstoppable. It's not the FBI guy. It's not Trevor. I'm gonna have to look this up. You guys are failing. Devin Weston. There you go, chat. Chat never lets me down. Every prosecutor is Devin Weston. And if you think I'm wrong, you've never met a prosecutor. And I mean that, dude, I've met people that are prosecutors that are friends or family members of friends. So there's no bias there. I would have a bias in their favor, but I've met them. They're all the same. They're all the same. They're all like Devin Weston. They're unprincipled, egotistical, just loudmouth, just Darwinist assholes. I'm sorry, I know I'm generalizing, but dude, I've met like 6 prosecutors in my life, and they're all the same. They're like the carbon, like people say NPCs. They're like clones of one another. It's so bizarre. I'm sorry. I know prosecutor is going to come across my channel. Fuck you, Louis. I'm different completely. When I send people to jail for the rest of their life, I do so with an open heart. Is it the job that makes the man, or is it the job that attracts the man? That's the question when it comes to prosecutors. Man. Anyway, sorry about people that sent the super chats. I'm getting distracted. Where the fuck was I? Dylan says, Louis, did you see what LeBron said? Absolute cuck. Yeah, I did. Is this hilarious? When he, like, people were passing around the tweet that he sent out last year where it's like, if you see injustice, you gotta call it out. It's so funny. It's like, I asked my parents this and they didn't have an answer because they're blue-pilled ultimately. But it's like, is it just fashionable? Is that what it is? Or is it, like, what is it? Like, explain it to me. Is it just fashionable politics? Or what? What is it? Is it cognitive dissonance? Are we going to be that generous to say that's it? Oh, it's just some cognitive dissonance on LeBron James's part. Are we going to give that much benefit of the doubt when I really don't think he deserves it? Everyone is a big loudmouth virtue signaler. And that's, dude, people right now are saying that the strategy should be to ask every leftist about China what they think about China and see them kowtow. I'm telling you that that's a solid strategy. To the right people out there, you know, the Will Chamberlains, the Jack Posobiec's, the Paul Joseph Watsons, the Sargons of Akkad, all the culture warrior types, I'm telling you, that is gold. That is gold. We have struck upon gold with China right now in the NBA, and I'm telling you, start putting a microphone in every leftist face and say, "Hey, what do you think about what they're doing to the Uyghur Muslims, and all the rest? What do you think what China's doing about gays? What do you think about what China's doing with transgenders? What do you think what China's doing about minority groups? You know, actual racial minorities." What do you think their opinion? What do you think about what they're doing to the Uyghur Muslims in the concentration camps? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Oh my God, dude! Every answer thus far has just been, well, you know, I don't really have an opinion. Meanwhile, they're putting Muslims in concentration camps. They're like force feeding them alcohol and pork and shit, and it's crazy. They're force feeding them pork and all kinds of shit. Just like, no, you're not gonna be Muslim anymore in China. It's like, it is like, if you don't eat the pork, if you don't drink the alcohol, you're going into a drink the pork, drink the alcohol, you don't eat the pork, you go in concentration camp. Like, it's that fucking insane. And they don't have anything to say about it. I'm telling you, dude, that it is a tip of a, it's a tip of it's you in a stream panning for gold. You're sifting through the stream, and you're like, hey, there's some gold particles here. I got some gold dust here. I am telling you, go upstream. There is a fucking gold mine. There is the fucking gold mine of the next 10 years of clown decade. It is there. I'm telling you. I know that that's a prediction that could blow up in my face and maybe this story dies down, but I'm telling you, there's a gold mine there. It may not be inexhaustible, but I'm telling you there's something there. Oh, man. And no comment on the Muslims and what China's doing. No comment. I see people in the chat already talking about the Muslims and what China's doing. No comment. You keep your opinions to yourself. Bull Moose says nuke perking now, Chinese internment camps now. Oh Jesus. Oh man, disavow, Bull Moose, disavow. Solazzo, I want to say it is, says, love your work, Louis, and Sargon needs to stream together more. Yeah, it's more my fault than his fault. If I asked him, he would definitely do a stream with me, but I don't I haven't really been hanging out on Discord and all that as much as I used to. This year's been kind of crazy. Evangelist says, Evangelist, excuse me, says, reminder that Iron Man 3 had a Chinese ending. Maybe so. I can't speak to that. I haven't watched the Iron Man movies. We could actually talk about that a little bit. Because I had like an argument, a mini argument, not really, it was right after a friend of mine saw the Joker movie, and we were arguing in good nature, like, any kind of a decent argument I have with friends, it's always trying to get ideas from other people, like what's their view, what's my view, and basically try to readjust my own position and see if they have some insight that I'm missing. I do that a lot with people that I'm friendly with. I'll argue with them, but in a serious capacity, just to see like if I'm missing something. And we did that about the Joker movie. And what it did was that it confirmed to me, and I'm getting off base here. I'll finish this super chats before I get into that. Sorry. John says my wife's racist, is not sorry, and she's Asian. See, that's the thing. Like, older Asians, like younger Asians are a little bit different from what I've seen, especially if they're like West Coast Asians for whatever reason. There seems to be a lot of woke, virtue signaling upper middle class Asians on the West Coast for some reason. But there are some Asians do not pull punches, and they're family members. Especially if they're from Asia specifically, like they're off the boat. You think they're any different to how the Polish used to be, or how the Irish used to be, or how the Italians used to be, or how anyone was way back when? You think they're any different? No, I don't think so. They're stepping off the boat. Their back is still wet, and they're learning the N-word. So to say, it's a short way of something that there's a lot more to, if you understand my meaning. And I'm not saying that's right, by the way, but I am saying it's true, and that's been my experience. It's true. Like I've already say, I've met racist whites, I've met racist Latinos, I've met racist blacks, and I'm not just saying, fuck whitey or whatever. I'm saying specifically whites that don't like blacks, blacks that don't like whites and don't like Asians and don't like Latinos. I've met Latinos that don't like the rest. I've met Asians that don't like the rest and do like whites but don't like blacks and all. Like, if you speak to people and you're frank enough with them, if you're direct enough with them, and I'm pretty direct with people unless it involves money or my job, and then I'm going to hold back. Like, I've had a couple conversations at my job where somebody else has brought up race, and I shut my fucking mouth. Because these normies are like, no, let's just have a good conversation. Hey, Louis, let's have a good conversation about race. Yeah, I don't think so. You want to go have a conversation about race with somebody else in the office or on another line with somebody else? You go ahead. I'm not having a conversation about race because as much as I don't like my job, I'm not planning on getting fucking fired. All you need is for some faggot virtue signaler at your job to report you to the media. Like, this guy got fired because he talked about race and he's a white man. Yeah, I don't fucking think so. I don't want to become the national pariah for for the rest of my life. Or be in a situation like with Dank, where he makes a fucking joke, and he is effectively unemployable at this point because the media in his own country has labeled him basically a Nazi to the point where now he has to be self-employed or that's it. He doesn't exactly come off as the most professional person, but I think that I think that in a professional setting, I've talked to him. I wouldn't exactly say that him and I are exactly like, I don't want to say not friends, because I think we have a decent camaraderie. We know of each other, and we've met. But I would say that I have enough, even though we're not like talking on a daily basis, meeting on a daily basis, I think I have some understanding of him. And I think that no matter how much he's posting his balls on Snapchat and posting spicy shit on Twitter or in Discord or whatever, I think at his core, in a professional setting, he is a professional person. No matter how irreverent he can seem, I think at his core, there is a serious person within him. And I think that's why he's been so successful on YouTube, is that he's tried, he's put in the work, he's put in the effort. He's a brave person, as you can see with what happened with his trial and all the rest of it. He's a brave person. And I think that only a person that successful in the way that he has, after all the adversity he's faced, it's been because at his core, he's a serious person. It's just outwardly. He's jovial, he's irreverent, he's having fun, he's cracking jokes. And he's like that when I met him in life. But that's what I see. And I think that's true for a lot of people. Is no matter how outwardly spicy you are and the rest of it, if you are by your own self-determination successful, you're a serious person. You're serious about your life and your success. I think that's true for him, Sargon, Jeremy, a lot of different people. And by the way, I mean that as a compliment. I'm not always best in articulating that. Patrick says, yeah, but Asia isn't clever with the racism. We come up with creative things like basketball Americans. Yeah, they're not very creative, I found, either. They'll just say the N-word. So that would have been the best joke of that Joker Twitter account, of the countdown to saying the N-word. You find go to China, find some Asian guy, say, hey, are you willing to say the word nigger? I guarantee you're going to get some yeses. Because they're not going to give a shit. And it doesn't even matter. Korea, China, Japan, Taiwan, Indonesia. Bro, they're not going to give a fuck. And I don't necessarily agree with it, because that to me is a sign of a poor culture in collectivism. You can only talk so much shit in being Asian, where it's a mix between a nation with a debt problem, a nation with a suicide problem, or a nation that's now a dictatorship. I don't really know if you got a lot of room for bragging there. At least in the United States, we're relatively free. Anyways, where the fuck was I in these super chats? American corporations bending to China's from the Geth reminds me of the business plot is really the business plot, but with communists. That doesn't, I don't know the reference. What do you mean the business plot? I assume that's a reference to something. I think it's a movie. It's an alleged political conspiracy in 1933. Oh, I think I know what this is. Because I recall the McCormick Dickstein Committee, because it's got such a weird name. I'd have to reread this. I can't remember this offhand what it is. Yeah, Cocktail Putsch. I remember that reference as well. I don't remember what this is exactly, but I'd have to reread it. I forget offhand. Hollywood quickly, and it's from Prince of Conquest, says, Hollywood quickly becoming an auction for America's media, just like Washington between China, Saudis, and our greatest ally, who's never done anything wrong ever. Yeah, the beauty with Israel lately, the thing that's really angered me lately about Israel is them spying on us, and then no one calling it out, no one giving a shit. It's like, yeah, the Israelites were just spying, Mossad was just spying on the United States. Just commonly, just spying on us, and it's like, yeah, I guess no one has anything to say about that. Well, that's just great. I would appreciate it if it were, for at least, let's just give it a day. For at least a day, people were offended by that. I would appreciate just a day of just some, like, what would be the phrase? There's a phrase for that. It's like, saying it for the sake of image, just for the sake of saying what you know to be morally right, even though you don't really believe strongly in it. I forget what the saying would be, but it was something that I just couldn't believe no one talked about, when it's like, okay, well, that's great. I'm glad we're not going to talk about that again. Yeah, sure. Lightning in the chat, righteously indignant. Sure, let's call it that. I would appreciate it if they were righteously indignant for a day over that, because I think it was warranted. Sam says, don't forget your old boy Bolsonaro on the anti-China front, by the way. Yeah, I haven't seen too much of Bolsonaro lately, but I can't imagine that he's going to be saddling up with China. Bolsonaro and a few other politicians, I read that, I'm not sure exactly what happened in the Italian elections, but I think, didn't Salvini lose control of the majority that they had? So he's still around, and I don't think he's out yet, but he's no longer in control of Italy the way he was. I'm not sure exactly what happened in the last Italy elections. Am I right about that, Chad? Is that what happened in Italy? Somebody who's Italian or has a better knowledge of it would have to explain it to me. Salvini's out. Well, that's too bad. He definitely seemed to be at least a good face for Italy. I imagine he's not the perfect politician, but it's definitely better than that fucking... What was the name of that guy, that super corrupt weirdo? Like the pervert they had? What was the name of that guy? Somebody in the chat out that guy. I'm sure someone knows the name. Berlusconi, that's it. Lightning. See, that's what I mean. You guys are you're always on this shot, on this shit. Berlusconi, that guy was a real weirdo. And I don't really think that was a good face for Italy. I've seen people say on Twitter that he wasn't necessarily all bad, but I think that with Salvini, he was definitely the better option as far as I understand the politics. Did he have sex with a minor? Is that what happened with him? I just know he was corrupt. That's the only thing I knew about him. Majority of parties made an alliance to get majority and force Salvini and his party out of government. Well, that's too bad. Is there any chance... Dylan, do you know? You seem... it's knowledge that I don't have. Do you think that Salvini will have a chance of getting back, or is he done? Like, is Italy going the way of France? What are people's opinions on Italy? Is Italy going the way of France or no? Because France, by all appearances, is fucked. Salvini is the Italian Farage. I hope he's a little bit better than Farage, because I don't like Farage anymore. Farage attempted to destroy UKIP for the sake of propping up the Brexit Party, and while once upon a time Farage was leading the charge against, lowering legal immigration, he's completely turned his back on that. He's turned his back on the Muslim problem in Britain. He's turned his back on many different things and all the people that helped him along the way. So Farage is a piece of shit. France is going to have their boogaloo before us. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of hope for France or Germany. Those two places seem to be pretty done. And Sweden, of course. Salvini and his party are still on top of the polls. He tried to force an election but failed. But as I said, he's still top of the polls. So that's good. John says the flip side of receiving criminal welfare, the drug market is government holidays and asset forfeiture. As much as I disagree with the drug laws, flip side of receiving criminal welfare. Drug market is government holidays and asset forfeiture. Yeah, I know that asset forfeiture is very controversial, and I know that the government's very loosey-goosey about a lot of that. Or it's just like, oh, you mean you use your drug money at some point? Well, thanks for the house. Thanks for the car. Thanks for all your shit. So we can auction it off. I understand how that's controversial. And I obviously see the problem with it. You know, confiscation of property, that should be incredibly limited by the government. And if you, like, that is the road to Venezuela, if you're not careful, by the way. It's something I'm not comfortable with. But at the same time, like, one of the things that it's so unbelievable about the border wall is that there's private landowners that are, like, virtue signal retards that are like, well, it's our private land, and just because it's on the border doesn't mean we have to sell it to the government. Yeah, if I was in power, I would not hesitate to declare eminent domain and seize that person's land. I wouldn't hesitate. I would not have a second thought to seizing that person's land. I would say, hey, we want to buy your land. We want to buy your land. It's important to national security. We're building a border wall. It's extremely important. We want to buy your land. We're going to offer you 150% of its value, whatever the fuck it is. And we want to buy your land. And if they go, no, you're a racist, white supremacist, blah, 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 okay, yep, your land's ours. You know, if you think I'm wrong about that, then it's like, okay, yeah, you're the guy that's going to get cucked by these people. Because if you're not willing to use that kind of power that the government already possesses against your enemies that are directly trying to obstruct what you're doing, then, like, what is the point? Like, at that point, let's just tear down all the fences. Let's just open the border. Because if you're going to allow one person to get in the way of this, of the security of the entire nation, then what is the point of you being in government? You know, we have the federal government for a reason. We had a war over this, and the supremacy clause stands. And it doesn't just stand over the states. If there's a national security issue, your virtue signal bullshit is secondary. It always has and always will be. And I know that that power can absolutely be abused, and we have to be very careful with the amount of power we give to the government. Because with a permanent bureaucracy, they don't seem to give a shit about the nature of their position, outside of them wanting to prolong it. That seems to be their only main concern. I know that people have righteous fears of the power of the government, but I'm telling you right here and now that even as skeptical as I am of government power, if you put me in the position of one virtue signaling fucking retard getting in the way of building the wall, especially it's a campaign promise, I would laugh in that person's face. You know, I would dare that person to do something about it. That would be my position. And I know that I don't exactly have the right kind of temperament to be really in that position, but that would be my position. Is, okay, then we're going to take your land, and I want you to do something about it. Give me a reason to do something to you with the power, with the full authority of the federal government. Intervene, please. Like, what does it mean to me? You're just my enemy. And it's like, well, I'm your enemy. I'm going to throw myself in your way. It's like, okay, well, then I'm just going to run you over. Why would I stop? To stop is to be a simp. That's the true nature of politics, is to realize when your enemy is desperate and is willing to do anything to prevent you. Sometimes the right move is to just let them do it. Just say, okay, go ahead. Because my thing is that, like, let's say worst case scenario, you as the president, or you as a politician, like let's say Rand Paul, for instance, because Rand Paul has been beat up, I think, a couple times. He got shot at, and then he got beat up. If you're Rand Paul, and some fucking leftist retard comes up to you and says, if you do X, I'm going to shoot you. And you say, well, okay, I guess I won't do it. Well, what's the point in you being in office? My answer is going to be, okay, shoot me. Because at the end of if you are like Rand Paul, if you're like Ron Paul, if you are supposed to be an ideologue, if you are supposed to be so committed to your convictions, so committed to your principles, that you are willing to die for them, and some fucking faggot walks up to you and says, well, if you do X, I'm going to take violence upon you, then it's like, okay, I'm going to still do it. I have the authority to do it. I'm here on a mandate. I'm going to do it. So if you're going to hurt me, you can try. Because if you're in federal government, it's like, well, okay, this is what's going to happen. You face potentially lethal force, maybe. But on the plus side, if it's not lethal, you're going to accomplish what you want to accomplish, and that person's going to federal prison. For a long time. Because one of the things I know about fucking politicians and all these people in power is they know all the judges. They know all the prosecutors. They know, like, if you know a sentencing judge, if you helped getting a judge elected to a position to where they sentence prisoners, like you help them get them there because you're both Republicans or whatever. You're members of the same party. You both know each other. You're on a first name basis. Like, even if like you don't make the call and say, I want you to give them the harshest sentence, they're going to do it anyways. So the nature of politics is you should never be afraid of the fucking assassin or the wannabe assassin. You should never be afraid of them if you have any fucking convictions. And I know that everyone's going to say, well, I got a life and I got to look out for my family and I'm the provider, blah, 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 blah. And my answer to you is to get out of politics. If your whole deal is, I'm afraid, oh, the terrorist is going to get me, I'm afraid. Like, I'm willing to abandon my principles in the name of my own survival because, ooh, woogie boogie, this guy's going to get me. Get out of politics. Because I can tell you that one of the things that I learned, not just in studying politics in college, but also in my own life, is anytime someone threatens you with violence, your go-to should be to call their bluff, because it has paid off in my life. It's yet to blow up in my face where I've gotten an ass kicking. In the worst case scenario, it's okay, I get my ass kicked. I call somebody's bluff, I get my ass kicked. Whoop-de-doo. That's great. I took a beating. Oh man, how terrible. I'll weep in humiliation the day that happens. But until that happens, you're not going to fucking bully me. You're not going to threaten me out of what I believe. You're not going to prevent me from, oh, well, I'm going to do something desperate unless you don't do what you promised the people that elected you that you're going to do. If you don't stop, I'm going to do something desperate. Well, fuck you. You're a terrorist. You're by definition a terrorist. And so, getting back to eminent domain and that person's property, I'm not calling that person a terrorist, that person particularly, but the nature of politics is that. Your enemies are always going to stand in your way. Stopping, so long as you're acting within the full authority of your position, okay? I'm not saying do anything crazy or illegal. I am saying if you have the authority to do something and someone says, I'm in your way, why would you not roll over them? I can understand going around them and ignoring them, whatever, and that's smart. It's smart politics to sometimes ignore people. But if someone stands in your way, don't stop. Go around maybe, but don't stop. Because that's stupid politics. And it only encourages that behavior more. The minute you give in to terrorism, it only encourages more of it. Or intimidation, whatever it is. Oh no, we got some fucking red pills in the chat by Luga Wanshu. He's dropping some red pills in the fucking chat. Patrick says the new number is 1355. There was some video the other day I saw floating around of some black woman going crazy doing something stupid, illegal. I think I even saw a video of a black girl getting shot by the police for doing something violent. I know that there's this bad story that just came out of this cop that just shot a black girl in her bedroom. That's a bad story. I forget what that story's called, but it's this girl. Her name starts with an A. Devin Tracy covered it already, and did so in a pretty harsh manner as well. Fair but harsh. That's a very bad story, and it just goes to show you what happens when you have a cop on the force that doesn't know what he's fucking doing. Like, you get even if it wasn't a welfare call to that residence, you're like, let's go like crawling into this person's backyard and shit. Let's not knock on the fucking front door. Let's go crawling around in the backyard, and the first sign of a human being, let me just pull the trigger. That's a pretty bad case. And by the way, those are the same people we need to give our guns to. I'm not a police basher in any capacity, believe me, but I'm just saying that it's like, man, like sometimes, man, the cops just make their own case for themselves, getting bashed by people. It's like, let me just show up, start crawling around in somebody's backyard, and then the first time I see somebody, put your hands up, boom, just pull the trigger, no hesitation. It's like, okay, well, you're in her backyard, bro, and you haven't announced yourself. Like, even if even in that case, that chick, if she shot that cop, she'd be fully justified. She doesn't know who the fuck it is. There's some guy with a flashlight with a gun crawling around in her backyard in the middle, like 2 a.m. If she shot him, like, she saw the guy's gun, he pulls up the gun, she shoots him, how is that not castle doctrine? How is that not a lawful use of force? And I'm not saying, like, kill cops or anything like that. Absolutely not. Like, that cop was absolutely in the wrong. Motherfucker, like, unless you're showing up at, like, I don't even know what kind of call would warrant that. What kind of call would warrant you at 2 a.m. crawling around in somebody's backyard? Not announcing yourself. Not knocking on the door even fucking once. That was a crazy video, if you saw it. For petty crimes, we should give lashes instead. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily. Maybe, the problem is that I saw people once arguing about public humiliation, like that being preferable, but I don't even think that would work. It would just be nonstop virtue signaling. It would be nothing but dindus in the stocks getting humiliated. And it would be nothing but white leftist middle-class fucking virtue signalers out there all day, every day, decrying it as racist America. There'd be no win. Lashes, it would be like, oh, it's the white man with the bullwhip once again. Or not even a bullwhip, but, I don't know, would it be a bullwhip? I don't know, I'd have to look it up. I think it is a bullwhip, that's what I'm thinking of. Christopher Columbus was the first gamer. Thanks, Prince of Conquest. Elder Chicken says, hey, Louie, I sent a super chat to Razorfist about going on a stream with you to talk about politics and Red Dead Redemption 2. He thought you were a Frenchman at first. He's not the only one. Well, thank you for that, Elder Chicken. I wouldn't mind talking to Razorfist. I know he's not the same in a live stream as he is in his scripted videos. And I wouldn't hold that against him. I wouldn't be combative. I'm not sure what he'd say about Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't think there's any denying the historical revisionism that's in the game. Like, there's just straight up propaganda in the game. And I'll admit to you that I bought it on PC. Like, if you want it in the chat right now, press C for Coco Louie for buying that game on PC. I did it. I am still, to this day, a sucker for fucking Rockstar. But I bought it on their launcher to be clear. I almost said queer. Wow, what a Freudian slip. To be clear, I bought it on their launcher, even though I fucking hate all the launcher shit. I hate all of this fucking launcher shit. It's like everyone's coming out with their own launcher now, and it's like there's a million launchers on PC now, and I can't stand it. The only one I don't mind is Games for Windows, or whatever they're calling it now, the Windows one, because it's actually integrated in, so it's not its own separate launcher. It's just like if you install something through Windows Store, like I have State of Decay 2 through the Windows Store. You just click the start button, and it just pops up, and you're in the game, and that's it. So I'll give Windows that at least they managed to integrate it. It's definitely not a perfect system, especially if you're fucking trying to download the game. It seems to be about as bad as Uplay once was. So it's got its problems, but at least they've integrated it better. Evangelist says, please put my content on blast, thanks. Sure. Sub the Evangelist. Let me double check Twitter real quick. Democrat debate is on? Oh, no. Okay, I'm going to have a vote in the chat, because I don't know about that shit. Hold on, I got people sending me a bunch of shit. Oh, here's a video from Andy No about this. Hold on, let me play this.
By his death. People are feeling very deeply wounded by his death and by the circumstances of it. And, you know, we know that expresses itself in a lot of ways, including the graffiti on the building, and we understand that. And it's just...
See? Dude, this is what I mean.
There's a family that's lost a young son.
This guy, the Antifa guy that fucking died was a violent felon, as far as I'm aware. I don't know if he actually had any convictions, but he was a fucking violent piece of shit. So I'm not exactly losing sleep over this fucking dog shit asshole who randomly attacked people. Like, yeah, I mourn for him. I weep for this guy who was running around attacking people. So thanks for the couple people sent me that. Oh yeah, this quote from Sam Hyde. I'll retweet that. Sam Hyde says, I'll put this on screen. When we win, do not forget that these people want you broke, dead, your kids raped and brainwashed, and they think it's funny. Yeah, I mean, was Sam? Here's a reference to the Dark Knight. Is Sam Hyde a monster, or is he just ahead of the curve? I'll let you guys decide. Okay, gotta get back to What? What?
An article the other day.
What?
Times also said in an article the other day, apropos of nothing, they were talking about it, going back to the Italian Americans, because you now have me.
I read the article, yep.
They used an expression that Southern Italians were called, I believe they were saying Southern Italians, Sicilians, I'm half Sicilian, were called, quote unquote, and pardon my language, but I'm just quoting the Times, nigger wops, N-word wops.
Oh my fucking god! Oh my Oh my fucking god! I cannot believe it. I can't. When did he fucking say this? He said this today? Oh my god, dude.
They used an expression of nothing. They were talking about it, going back to the Italian Americans, because you now have me.
I read the article, yep.
They used an expression that Southern Italians were called, I believe they were saying Southern Italians, Sicilians, I'm half Sicilian, were called, quote unquote, and pardon my language, but I'm just quoting the Times, nigger wops, N-word wops.
Oh my god.
As a derogatory comment. When I said that WAP was derogatory.
I love how he says it. I love how he says it, dude. That's the funniest fucking part of this is how he says it. Hold on.
My language, but I'm just quoting the Times. Nigger wops.
Part of my language, nigger wops. He's not saying, like, he's saying it too. Like, rather than saying wop, he's saying whop. It's like this. There's a weird silent H in the way he's saying it. Maybe that's just me.
Quoting, pardon my language, but I'm just quoting the Times. Nigger wops. And
Yeah. It sounds like he's saying nigger womps. You know what's funny about womps is that is the curse word. There's an entire episode, and I remember this, from the show Recess on Disney. I reference this every once in a while on Twitter because I watched it when I was young. That was the cuss word of, what was it, CJ, like the main kid in the show, was a womps. And there was an entire episode about how that was a curse word. It sounds like he's saying nigger womps. Is this CJ grown up? Is that what this is? Nigger womps? Oh my... Is this not Clown World? Is this not fucking Clown World, ladies and gentlemen? Come on.
were called, quote unquote, and pardon my language, but I'm just quoting the Times, nigger wops. N-word wops.
Okay, now it sounds more like wops. Okay, so the first time he says it, it sounds a little bit like womps, but the second time it sounds like wops.
As a derogatory comment. When I said that WAP was a derogatory comment.
Who the fuck said that in the chat? Negev says in the chat, he's half Sicilian so he can say it. Is that the fucking rule now? Is that the rule now? Is it that because he's half Sicilian, he gets to say nigger? I mean, it's not like he's the first Italian that's been throwing around the word nigger before.
When the Times Union told me, no, you should look in Wikipedia. WAP really meant a dandy.
What?
I'm sure that's what they were saying to me back in Queens. You're a dandy. When they looked at me with scorn and
Dude, is this fucking anecdote about his own victimhood? Are you fucking serious? Dude, oh my fucking god. Dude, I am literally speechless. I'm speechless. This entire fucking anecdote was about him being the victim of racism. Because they called him a nigger. Somebody's throwing around the word nigger wop, and he's like, excuse me, I resemble that remark. What? Fucking what? Oh my god. See, people said that Italians are whites, but what is this guy saying here? Somebody called Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, a nigger, and he was offended by it. Legitimately, he's like, his whole fucking anecdote about his own victimhood. Oh, they looked at me in scorn.
To me, back in Queens.
Dude, if Tucker Carlson has to cover this, oh my fucking god. Dude, if I was on national television, I would never fucking let this go. This is so unbelievable.
You're a dandy. When they looked at me with scorn and gave me a hand gesture and called me a wop. So that's the New York Times.
What? Fucking what? Fucking what? Dude, this is legitimately leaving me speechless. Like, I cannot believe he fucking said that. Oh my god. Oh, dude, I would never fucking let this go. What's funny what's funny is that, like, it's just like, so you can use the word nigger then? Is that the rule now? Is the rule now you can use the word nigger? So long as you're not, like, what is the fucking rules? What are the rules? What are the rules? For the love of God, what are the fucking rules? Like, do we have to draft a law, like an N-word bill, to just specify when you can use the word nigger and no one's gonna fucking care? It's just unbelievable. I know people are gonna be like, oh, you should defend Andrew Cuomo. And it's like, yeah, the guy that if he had the ability would have me in a jail cell. Yeah, right. That's the fucking guy I'm gonna defend. Unbelievable. Legitimately unbelievable. I can't believe that's fucking real. Okay, following that, do you guys want to watch the debates or talk about something else? In the chat, what do you think? Shout it out in the chat. Watch the debate or who cares? What do we think? Life is Strange stream. Oh, that reminds me. I had an idea for a game stream. Is to do a live stream of Tales from the Borderlands, and call it Tales from the Downfall, which is a reference both to Telltale collapsing and Downfall the movie. It's a reference for you memesters. Because I think that Tales from the Borderlands, rather, is the best example of, like, what happened with Telltale, where it's like you're playing what is it, like a good narrative game, and it just takes a shit, and it's like, what the fuck happened? But they hired incompetent morons. All right. Oh, yeah, streaming the debates might get me copyrighted. I don't know, because there are people that do stream the debates. I don't see... I'll take a look on the main page and see, like, if there is... JonTron's currently #1 in trending. Saw he put out a video today. I haven't seen it yet. I don't see any live. Oh, apparently fucking Razorfist is streaming the debates. Should we watch Razorfist watch the debates? Open a DLive account. Okay, only way to not get a copyright strike is to show your face. Sorry, then we won't do it then. I guess let's tune into Razorfist really quick, I guess. Let's see what he's up to. Hold on, turn it down. Alright, we're gonna stream like this guy. Let's find out what's going on. This is almost as good as streaming with Razor.
The aging of the population. We need to make it easier to get long-term care insurance and strengthen Medicaid. In this state, the state of Ohio, that has been hit
more
by
pushes for more people to be covered by shittier care. That's code for what they're talking about right now.
for the addictions that they have.
Boomer audio? All right, turn it up.
The only statistic proponents of Obamacare can conceivably cite to make
It should be
their
pretty
system
loud.
sound incrementally less shitty is more people have health care. Yeah, if more people have a thing that's bad, that's more bad. Two of shit is shit.
I guess I'll look for the stream then, just because I want to hear what's going on, and he's talking over it, so that doesn't help. Anyone got a link to this shit? Anybody on Twitter got a link to this shit? I'll look for one. Dem debates live. Oh, here we go. This might be it. Here we go. Let's see if this works. This is from the official website.
The fact is, they'll pay more in new taxes, 7.4% plus or 5% plus a 4% income tax. If a fireman and a school teacher are making $100,000 a year, their taxes are going to go up about 10 grand. That is more than they will possibly save on this healthcare plan. We have a plan put forward that will work.
Senator Sanders, do you want to respond?
I get a little bit tired, I must say, of people defending a system which is dysfunctional, which is cruel. 87 million uninsured.
Hold on, you're saying there's an echo? What echo? There shouldn't be. Oh, crop the Chiron out. I think I can do that. Let me, yeah, I might have to plug in a headset. This might fuck me up, though. Because I'm not sure what's set to the default. I might swap over the... fucking devices. Okay, let me see. No, we're still good. Okay, it's disabled. Alright, let me see if I can solve the audio issue. Well, why would I randomly wear a headset while I'm just streaming nothing but me talking? Alright, let me sample this real quick. Hold on, I have audio input capture. Let me see here. I think this is it right here. Try that again. God damn it. Should be working.
To stand up to
There we go. Can you guys hear that in the chat? Can you hear this?
the healthcare industry, which made $100 billion in profit.
How do you hear that
Whether
okay?
we have the guts to stand up to the corrupt, price-fixing pharmaceutical industry, which is charging us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. And if we don't have the guts to do that, if all we can do is take their money, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Harris, your response?
This is the sixth debate we have had in this presidential
There you
cycle,
go.
and not
Does
nearly
that count as
one
cropped out?
word with all of these discussions about health care on women's access to reproductive health care, which is under full-on attack in America
Whoa,
today.
women.
And it's outrageous. There are states that
Yeah, why
have
is
passed
Kamala Harris
laws
here?
that
She's
will
done.
virtually
I can't even.
prevent women
I don't
from
even
having
like. What is
access
she in the
to
polls now?
reproductive health care.
3%.
And it is not an exaggeration to say women will die
No.
Poor women, women of color
No,
will
think of the
die
women.
because these Republican legislatures in these various states who are out of touch with America are telling women what to do with our bodies. Women are the majority of the population in this country. People need to keep their hands off of women's bodies and let women make the decisions about
I
their own
don't
lives.
believe she believes any of
And
that
let's
shit.
talk about that.
I don't believe she says any of believes any of
Healthcare
that.
issue in America today.
I want to turn now to jobs. According to a recent study, about a quarter of American jobs could be lost to automation in just the next 10 years. Ohio is one of the states likely to be hardest hit. Senator Sanders, you say your federal jobs guarantee is part of the answer to the threat from automation. But tens of millions of Americans could end up losing their jobs. Are you promising that you will have a job for every single one of those Americans?
Damn right we will. And I'll tell you why. If you look at what goes on in America today, we have an infrastructure which is collapsing. We could put 15 million people to work rebuilding our roads, our bridges, our water systems, our wastewater plants, airports, etc. Furthermore, and I hope we will discuss it at length tonight, this planet faces the greatest threat in its history from climate change. And the Green New Deal that I have advocated will create up to 20 million jobs.
It will also destroy the economy.
Energy efficiency,
it won't work. It won't
sustainable
change
energy.
anything. So that's
we
great.
need
Thank you,
workers
Bernie.
to do childcare. We need workers, great teachers, to come in to school systems which don't have the teachers that we need right now. We need more doctors. We need more dentists. We need more carpenters. We need more sheet metal workers.
Stop, Bernie, stop. We need more dentists. We need more doctors. We need more steel workers. No. We have as many as the market requires. If there is not a market for more doctors, more dentists, etc., then they do not exist. That is the way in which the market works. So unless you're planning on nationalizing every fucking industry there, Bernie, none of what you're saying is true. It makes any sense.
When we talk about making public colleges and universities tuition free and canceling student debt, we're going to give those people the opportunity to get those good jobs.
Senator Sanders, thank you. Mr. Yang, your main solution to job loss from automation is a universal basic income. Why is giving people $1,000 a month better than Sanders' plan to guaranteeing them a job?
Well, because one, I can see at least this in Andrew Yang's defense. I think his positions are fucking stupid. I have no idea why people bought into Andrew Yang. I thought what he was pushing the whole time is fucking stupid. He's not the dumbest person on the stage. I've heard him like defend what he believes and what his reasoning is, but I don't know. The more I hear from him, the more it seems just like open pandering. And at least in his method, it could be conceivably constitutional. But with what Bernie's arguing for, it's absolutely not. And it's also completely economically illiterate to think that we need more sheet workers, we need more metal workers, we need more doctors. It's like, this isn't a fucking command economy, Bernie. We have as many as the market requires. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? By the way, we can have all the gender studies degrees in the world. It doesn't mean we have enough jobs to fill them, okay? That's not how the market works. You can have an excess of labor. We do now, currently, because of our labor, or our immigration system. We have a mass excess of labor. And as it relates to the automation question, at least Andrew Yang has a solution, even if I don't think it's a good solution.
I am for the spirit of a federal jobs guarantee, but you have to look at how it would actually materialize in practice. What are the jobs? Who manages you? What if you don't like your job? What if you're not good at your job? The fact is, most Americans do not want to work for the federal government. And saying that that is the vision of the economy of the 21st century, to me, is not a vision that most Americans would embrace.
I can tell you right up front that the worst client my company has is New York State. I fucking hate working for New York State. They are the stingiest, most ridiculous, and just they look for reasons to not pay my company. So I can tell you that maybe this is my own anecdotal experience, but I don't like working and having a contract through New York State.
Also, Senator Sanders, A description of a federal jobs guarantee does not take into account the work of people like my wife, who's at home with our 2 boys, one of whom is autistic. We have a freedom dividend of $1,000 a month. It actually recognizes the work that is happening in our families and our communities. It helps all.
Okay, I got a spicy take for you. I got a spicy take. And should I say it or no? What do you think, chat? Spicy take, referencing Andrew Yang's son. No, no. Well, I got some yeses. My spicy take on Andrew Yang's autistic son is if your son, I'm going crazy here. If your son is so autistic that it requires your wife to be at home with him for constant care, is your son autistic or are they retarded? Just asking. Because all of a sudden, there's a lot of autists, there's not many retards anymore. Maybe it's just a generational difference.
All Americans transition, because the fact is, and you know this in Ohio, if you rely upon the federal government to...
Oh, come on, what the fuck? Hold on, we just lost the feed. I know we're a little bit behind because I'm pausing it.
For children or for seniors, and creates an opportunity for them to get credit on their Social Security. After a lifetime of hard work, people are entitled to retire with dignity.
Thank you, Senator Warren.
I see this as an important question about I want to understand the data on this.
Senator, thank you very much.
We're responding to make this work.
Your time is up.
By the way, she's your front runner currently by every metric I can. Oh, here we go.
Is getting to the heart of the fear that is well-founded. As people look to this automation revolution, they look to uncertainty. They don't know how this is going to affect their jobs and their everyday lives. And I agree with my friend Andrew Yang. I think universal basic income is a good idea to help provide that security so that people can have the freedom to make the kinds of choices that they want to see. This has to do with bad trade deals that we've seen in the past that have also driven fear towards people losing the way that they provide for their families. Really what we need to do is look at how we can best serve the interests of the American people. I do not believe a federal jobs guarantee is the way to do that. The value that someone feels in themselves and their own lives is not defined by the job that they have, but is intrinsic to who.
That sounds like a very womanly thing to say. A lot of men do define themselves by what they do. So I don't agree with that take. It's one of the reasons why I don't think universal basic income is like a catch-all silver bullet solution to our problems. I think that if that revolution does come soon, it's gonna fuck things up royally. And I think especially when it comes to trucking, it is coming for trucking. When trucking automates, I'm not gonna like seeing 10 million men put out of work. Or is it 10 million? Yeah, I think it is 10 million.
We all are as Americans, whatever we choose to do with our lives, and we can't forget that.
Thank you very much.
One of the industries most at risk from a changing economy is the auto industry. General Motors used to be the largest employer in Ohio. Now it's 72nd. Today, thousands of GM workers here in Ohio and across the country are on strike. All of you on the stage have voiced support for these workers. Senator Booker, one of the latest impasses in negotiations involves bringing jobs back from Mexico. As president, how would you convince GM to return production to the United States?
Well, first of all, the one point I wanted to make about the UBI conversation, and I hope that my friend Andrew Yang will come out for this, doing more for workers than UBI would actually be just raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
Fuck off.
Put more money.
Fuck off. Dude, the minimum wage is such a fucking joke. It's a stupid man's solution to economic problems. Jesus fucking Christ.
In people's pockets than giving them $1,000 a month. We have to start putting the dignity back in work. And number one, you start having trade deals not like this thing that the president is trying to push.
Oh my God. If you want to know a decent reason why it was so easy for me to quit the Democratic Party,
through Congress right now, that gives pharmaceutical companies and other corporations benefits and doesn't put workers at the center of every trade deal. We must make sure we are not giving corporate tax incentives for people to move jobs out of our country.
I swear to fucking God, dude. I'm just going to keep going, because if I don't, I'm going to fucking blow a gasket.
But start to put the worker at the center of that and make sure that they have the resources to succeed. But it's more than that. I stood with these workers because we're seeing this trend all over our country. I stood with unions because right now, unions in America are under attack. As union membership has gone down, we have seen a stratification of wealth and income in this country. So the other thing that I'll do as President of the United States is begin to fight again to see union strength in this country spread, to make sure we have sectoral bargaining so that unions...
Dude. You know why unions are collapsing across the board? Because labor has no fucking value. When your immigration rate is over 1 million a year and has been for decades, you have no labor value. When all of your trade, the second anyone starts to unionize, disappears or goes overseas, it's because your labor has no fucking value. Okay? This is the problem. So long as trade is globalized, so long as our immigration rate is over 1 million a year, so long as automation is around the corner, as everyone declares, why would unionization fucking work? It's unbelievable to me. It's like, if you do not have pressure on employers for employment, meaning it's a labor economy, or however you would describe it. It's like it's happening in Japan, where employers are struggling to find people for part-time jobs and bad jobs and, jobs people don't want to work. Because the immigration rate in Japan is so low and because their birth rate's so low, they have to either incentivize more to find people, offer more hours to find people, pay more to find people, or outsource/automate the job if they don't have any options left. And they're doing that with certain sectors. Certain sectors in Japan are automating because they can't find enough people to staff those positions. Like, saying "duh unions" is retarded in this economy. Unions are completely falling apart all across the country. It's a combination of immigration and globalization. And let's sign some trade deals and keep the immigration rate at 2 billion a year, however much you want it to be. It's not going to fucking result in anything.
From the auto workers all the way to fast food workers, can ensure that we improve workers' conditions and make sure that every American has a living wage in this country.
Wrong. You are wrong. You are also an economic illiterate.
Thank you, Senator. Congressman O'Rourke, same question for you. How would you convince GM to bring production back to the United States from Mexico?
I've met with these members of the UAW who are striking outside of facilities in Cincinnati, in Lordstown, Ohio, which has just been decimated by GM and their malfeasance, paying effectively zero in taxes last year. The people of Ohio investing 10...
Dude, half of these fucking car corporations are practically nationalized. It's like the airline industry. They're barely in business. Like, I'm not even saying that necessarily the regulation is inappropriate. Although I would say maybe in airlines it's excessive, but I mean, do you exactly want to have your shit goes wrong in an airline, a couple hundred people die. But with these car companies, the reason why exports are such a big thing in the United States now is that half of these companies are like a foot in the fucking grave.
Tens of millions of dollars in the infrastructure around there. What they want is a shot. And they want fairness in how we treat workers in this country, which they are not receiving today. Part of the way to do that is through our trade deals, making sure that if we trade with Mexico, Mexican workers are allowed to join unions, which they are effectively
What? I wish I could replay that. I am stunned. We need to gear our fucking trade deals to aid Mexicans in unionizing. Fucking what? Beto O'Rourke? Hey, can anyone guess why I'm a Republican now? Hey, does anyone know why I'm a Republican now? Does anyone can anyone figure it out? Can anyone guess? Does anyone know? Can anyone square it away? Can anyone fucking can any of you Nancy Drews in the fucking chat solve this Byzantine mystery of why I've left the Democratic Party? What the fuck?
unable to do today. Not only is that bad for the Mexican worker, it
with the oppressive burden
we skipped
of
ahead.
student debt. And then you also have 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society.
Oh, here we go.
That is
we cut
a
right to
moral
Bernie.
and economic outrage. And the truth is, we cannot afford to continue this level of income and wealth inequality, and we cannot afford a billionaire class whose greed and corruption has been at war with the working families of this country for 45 years. So if you're asking me, do I think we should demand that the wealthy start paying?
Okay, shut up, Bernie. I want to say to the chat that have been talking about unions, if specifically Mexicans want to unionize in Mexico, I absolutely think they have the absolute right to collectively bargain. I'm not against collective bargaining, but I am arguing that when your labor is worth shit, there's not much that's going to come of collective bargaining. You have to have a very serious means in which you can strong-arm management to be in that position. And the globalized economy, I'm sorry, labor has almost no value.
The wealthiest, top 0.1%, start paying their fair share of taxes so we can create a nation and a government that works for all of us. Yes, that's exactly what I believe.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Steyer, you are the lone billionaire on this stage.
Oh, they finally
What's
got
your
Tom
plan for
Steyer
closing
on
the income
here.
gap?
Well, first of all, let me say this. Senator Sanders is right. There have been 40 years where corporations have bought this government, and those 40 years have meant a 40-year
Oh,
attack
man, you just
on
know
the rights
he's
of working
fucking
people and
sincere. You just know
specifically on
he's
organized
just
labor.
total sincere.
And
yeah.
the results are as shameful as Senator Sanders says,
man.
both in terms of assets and in terms of income. It's absolutely wrong. It's absolutely undemocratic and unfair. I was one of the first people on this stage to propose a wealth tax.
What? Are we turning into fucking Cuba? What? I'm sorry, a wealth tax? Excuse me? Is this turning into a Tropico game? What?
I would undo every Republican tax.
Demonizing rich
Okay,
people.
we're done.
Do
We're
you
done with Tom
believe
Steyer. Done.
that Senator Sanders and Senator Warren's wealth tax plans do that?
Oh my God!
No,
Why are we
look,
talking about a fucking wealth
demonizing
tax?
people. What I talked about is how you get things done. And the way to get things done is take a look at the tax code right now. The idea, we have to start rewarding work, not just wealth. I would eliminate the capital gains tax.
Wow!
I would raise the capital gains tax to the highest rate of 39.5%. I would double it. Because guess what?
What?
Why in God's
Wait,
name should
what?
someone who's clipping coupons in the stock market in fact, pay a lower tax rate
Wait,
than
hold on.
someone who, in fact...
Are we cutting it? Wait, what? What is going on? I'm sorry, are we doubling it? Or are we cutting it? What? I was about to say, wow, cutting the capital gains tax. I mean, I'm definitely willing to hear a yow.
fact is, like I said, a school teacher and a firefighter. It's ridiculous, and they pay a lower tax. Secondly, the idea that we, in fact, engage in this notion that there's $1,640 billion in tax loopholes. You can't justify a minimum $600 billion of that. We could eliminate it all.
You gotta cut it and double it.
Secondly,
cut it and double the capital gains.
Thirdly, what we need to do is we need to go out and make it clear to the American people.
We're interested in it. Like, yep, I got this nomination.
We are going to raise taxes on the wealthy. We're going to reduce tax burdens on those who are not. And this is one of the reasons
lot of
these
like,
debates
dude.
are kind of
Federally speaking, poor people pay almost nothing, if not nothing. Income tax is the main source of income to the federal government. Let's stop.
crazy because everybody tries to squeeze everything into every answer.
And I'm not even saying like, oh my God, we need to cut the income tax rate. Like, I'm not even saying like cut taxes overall. I'm a libertarian, ANCAP, blah blah blah. Like cutting the capital gains tax, okay. You know, I would say if you said that as a concession to Republicans to get a bigger tax deal, that'd be interesting.
That is given. The fact is, everybody's right about the fact.
To provide
Okay,
universal
done.
child care for every baby in this country age 0 to 5. Universal pre-K for every child. Raise the wages of every child care worker.
Hey, you know what's working really well right now is public school systems. Those are working so fucking well right now.
School teacher
We
in
need
America.
more.
Provide for universal tuition-free college. Put $50 billion into his...
It's because the stream's updating itself. I'm pausing it, but it's not. It's a live feed that I'm pausing. That's what's going on with the stream.
Historically black colleges and universities.
Thank you,
and
Senator
cancel,
Warren.
No, let me finish, please.
What the fuck?
And cancel student loan debt
Oh,
for
my-
95% of the people who have it. My question is
Can't
not
cancel
why
my
Bernie
debt,
and I
President
support
Warren.
a wealth tax. It's why does everyone else on this stage think it is more important to protect billionaires than it is to invest
Because
in
they're the ones investing in fucking everything.
Mayor Buttigieg. Mayor Buttigieg, your response.
I'm all for a wealth tax. I'm all for
What the
just about everything
fuck?
that was
Why
just
is everyone in
mentioned these
favor of
answers. Let me
this?
tell you, though, how this looks from the industrial Midwest where I live.
Yes, please.
Washington politicians, congressmen and senators saying all the right things, offering
No,
the most
I don't
elegant
agree.
policy prescriptions.
These are not.
And nothing changes.
Yes?
I didn't even realize it was unusual to have empty factories that I would see out the windows of my dad's Chevy Cavalier when he drove me to school. I didn't know that wasn't every city until I went away to college. Now, I drive my own Chevy. It's a Chevy Cruze.
That's
Used to be
nice.
built right in Lordstown, which is now one more symbol of the broken promises that this president has made to workers. But
Bullshit. Bullshit, Pete.
why did workers take a chance on this president in the first place? It's because it felt like nobody was willing to actually do anything. And while
Yeah,
he's
and no one in the
unquestionably
fucking
made it
Democratic Party
dramatically
ever
worse,
has.
This is time to realize that we're paying attention to the wrong things. We're paying attention to who sounded better on a debate stage or in a
Senator
committee
Klobuchar,
hearing
Senator
versus what it's
Klobuchar,
actually
I
going to
will
take to
take
get
a
it.
tax.
Let him at
Will
least
tax work.
finish. Let him at least finish.
I am open to it, but I want to give a reality check here to Elizabeth, because no one on this stage wants to protect billionaires. Not even the billionaire wants to protect billionaires. We just
That's
have different
true.
approaches.
That's
Your
true.
idea is not the only idea. And when I look at this, I think about Donald Trump, the guy that after that tax bill passed, went to Mar-a-Lago, got together with his cronies, and said, guess what? You guys all got a lot richer. That was the one time in his presidency he told the truth. So we have different ways. I would repeal significant portions of that tax bill that help the rich, including what he did with the corporate tax rate, including what he did on international taxation. You add it all up, you got a lot of money. That one helps pay for that child care, protects that dignity of work, make sure we have decent retirement, and make sure that our kids can go to good schools. It is not one idea that rules here.
Senator Warren, please respond.
So understand.
I thought Klobuchar got booted from this
income
debate.
is not going to get you where you need to be the way taxing wealth does. That the rich are not like you and me. The really, really billionaires are making their money off their accumulated wealth, and it just keeps growing. We need a wealth tax in order to make investments in the next generation. Look, I understand that this is hard, but I think as Democrats, we are going to...
Let's say you implement that. What is going to be the result of that? What is going to be the result of that? Seriously. You implement that tax structure. What is going to be the result of that?
Succeed when we dream big and fight hard.
If we
Thank
unite
you, Stream.
ideals and don't go fighting against each other and instead take the fight to him.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Harris, you want to give working families a tax credit of up to $6,000 a year to help close the income gap.
Right.
Is that a better solution than a wealth tax?
Well, here's how I think about it. When I was growing up, my mother raised my sister and me. We would often come home from school before she came home from work. She'd come home, she'd cook dinner, and at some point we'd go to bed, and she'd sit up at the kitchen table trying to figure out how to make it all work. And when I think about where we are right now in 2020, I do believe justice is on the ballot. It's on the ballot in terms of impeachment. It's on the ballot in terms of economic justice, health justice, and so many other issues. So when I think about this issue, I'm thinking about that dad who tonight is going to be sitting at his kitchen table after everyone's gone to sleep and sitting there with his cup of tea or coffee trying to figure out how he's going to make it work. And he's probably sitting there deciding
She comes from an incredibly upper middle class family.
That does not pay enough for him.
Look into her history. Her family was incredibly upper middle class.
And what does that mean? That means that with those two jobs,
Professional
he's going to
class,
miss his
both
kids'
parents.
soccer games. That's the reality for Americans today, which is why, yes, when I get elected and pass this bill, which will give the American family who makes less than $100,000 a year a tax credit of up to $6,000 a year that they can take home at up to $500 a month, that's going to make a real difference in that man's life. And don't tell him that's not a big deal when he's trying to get through the end of the month.
Mr. Yang, your response.
Thank you for that pontification.
Senator Warren is 100% right that we're in the midst of the most extreme winner-take-all economy in history. And a wealth tax makes a lot of sense in principle. The problem is that it's been tried in Germany, France, Denmark, Sweden, and all those countries.
And a bunch of socialist countries,
because it
too.
had massive implementation problems and did not generate the revenue that they'd projected. If we can't learn from the failed experiences of other countries, what can we learn from? We should not be looking to other countries' mistakes. Instead, we should look at what Germany, France, Denmark, and Sweden still have, which is a value-added tax. If we give the American people a tiny slice of every Amazon sale, every Google search, every robot truck mile, every Facebook ad, we can generate hundreds of billions of dollars and then put it into our hands because we know best how to use it.
Thank you. Thank you. Congressman
It's not a
O'Rourke,
bad
do you
answer.
think a wealth tax
It's not a bad
is the best
answer.
way to address income inequality? Your response?
I think it's part of the solution, but I think we need to be focused on lifting people up. And sometimes I think that Senator Warren is more focused on being punitive or pitting some part of the country against the other, instead of lifting people up and making sure that this country comes together around those solutions. I think of a woman that I met in Las Vegas, Nevada. She's working 4 jobs, raising her child with disabilities, and any American with disabilities knows just how hard it is to make it and get by in this country already. Some of those jobs working for some of these corporations, she wants to know how we are going to help her, how we're going to make sure that her
I'm gonna launch the Louis Le Vau 2020. I'm gonna launch a dating service to get these single moms a husband.
Child has the care that she needs, that we strengthen protections for those with disabilities, that she just has to work one job because it pays a living wage. And Senator Warren
If she had a husband that was employed in some kind of trade, she would have to have 0 jobs.
Said, show me your budget, show me your tax plan, and you'll show me your values. She has yet to describe her tax plan and whether or not that person I met would see a tax increase. Under my administration, if you make less than $250,000 a year as a family, you will not see a tax increase. That
Thank
family
you,
needs to know
Congressman.
that.
Let me say,
I want to give Senator Warren a chance to respond.
So, I'm really shocked at the notion that anyone thinks I'm punitive. Look, I don't have a beef with billionaires. My problem is you made a fortune in America. You had a great idea. You got out there and worked for it. Good for you. But you built that fortune in America. I guarantee you built it in part using workers all of us help pay to educate. You built it in part getting your goods to market on roads and bridges all of us help pay for.
Okay,
You built it at least in part protected.
So did they. So did they.
By police and firefighters.
Like, I don't want to sit here and show for the fucking billionaires, but they're also paying taxes.
All of us help pay the salaries for. And all I'm saying is, you make it to the top 0.1%, then pitch in 2 cents so every other kid in America has a.
They already do. They already pay taxes. Like, let's be clear, they do. Let's stop with this bullshit. Like companies can skirt tax laws. Yes. Rich people can send their money to tax havens and all that sort of shit, but they're still paying some taxes.
Chance to
Senator,
make it.
thank you.
That's
Secretary
what
Castro.
This is about.
Congressman,
Thanks
go
a
ahead,
lot,
Secretary.
Aaron. And you see that everybody has their own plans. And let me just say that the way that I view this is born out of my own experience. I grew up like I bet a lot of folks in this room grew up, and folks that are watching on TV.
Okay,
I grew
on.
up with my twin brother Joaquin in a single-parent household where my mom was working hard to support us and also her mom, my grandmother. And we knew what it was like to want.
Is this the single, or excuse me, is this the party of single mothers?
Wonder whether we're going to be able to pay the rent at the first of the month, or sometimes have the electricity turned off. And when I was a kid, to look at the grocery list that seemed to get shorter and shorter. And that's what's happening to a lot of families these days. I was in Las Vegas a few months ago, and I visited people who were homeless.
I'm gonna run for the Democratic Party. I'm gonna run for the Democratic nomination. Bitch, get a husband. There's my tax plan. Bitch, get a husband.
Hundreds of millions of dollars, where people from around the world
get
are
yourself a
spending
man.
so much money on vacations. We can do better than that. I believe that a wealth inequality tax, as I've proposed, is part of the answer, but also I've proposed an inheritance tax, raising the top marginal tax rate, and investing in things like universal.
That was nothing. That was fucking nothing.
Well, first of all, I just want to respond.
Total platitude.
You know, we've got one shot to make Donald Trump a one-term president. And how we talk about each other in this debate actually really matters.
Oh, my God.
I've had the privilege of working with or being friends with everybody on this stage, and tearing each other down because we have a different plan, to me, is unacceptable. I have seen this script before. It didn't work in 2016, and it will be disaster for us in 2020. And so,
man. There's a true statement.
Than many people on the stage.
More true than you think,
And
Booker.
it involves, again, fair taxes for the richest. We have a lot of work to do there, but we've had 20 years of presidential debates, and we have never talked about the violence in America of child poverty. We have got to begin to talk more eloquently and more persuasively and urgently about doing the things, not just to make sure fair taxes are paid by people on the top, but that we deal with the moral obscenity of having the highest levels of child poverty.
Hey, women, I'm going to help you out here. This is Louis. I'm going to give you some good personal advice. When a guy wants to fuck you with no protection, don't. This has been Louis Le Vau for 2020. I stand by this commentary. Thank you for listening.
Poverty in the industrial world. My plan will focus on that, and these are some of the issues we should be talking about, not defining ourselves just by what we're against, but we need to win this election by talking about who and what we are for.
Thank you, Senator Booker.
We've got to take a quick break. We've got to take a quick break right now. The CNN New York Times debate live from Otterbein University in Ohio. We'll be right back after this.
Okay, there we go. Now it's just a blank screen. Oh my god. Condoms are hate speech. Thank you, Sealy. We got some super chats, so let's get to the super chats while we're waiting for commercials to be done. Oh wow, we actually got quite a few. Hang on. Mighty Balzac says everything south of Rome is considered Africa. Patrick says talk about the LGBT town hall a couple days ago. Yeah, it was a total clusterfuck. People kept interrupting and protesting and going crazy. I'm no weatherman, says Mobile Crusader, but I'm forecasting 100% chance of crazy at these debates. Mobile Crusader also says if all we do is take their money, we should be ashamed, the socialist. Rogue Crusader says Yang Gang equals Andrew Yang's autistic sons. Damn! Rogue Crusader coming in with the fucking spicy takes. Bazinski says just checking in. Hey, Bazinski. Melisma says funding for Louis Le Vau dating service trademark. Yeah, sure. It's public, okay? It's Louis Le Vau's dating service.org or .gov. Beamer says love her PSA, dude. Yes. Thank you. I know I'm speaking to little known facts of life. Free abortions is the answer. Dude, I am surprised they're not endorsing free abortions. Like, that's the only fucking thing they're not overtly saying should be free at this point. I mean, if we're giving free tuition and free fucking everything else, why not free abortions? I mean, I guess the reason not is how else are you going to form voting farms? How do you have a voting farm with no livestock? I can't have abortion then. There's a hot take for you. I hate the commercials. That's why I don't watch TV anymore. How long are we going to sit here? The website fucking crashed? What the fuck? I'm gonna have to wrap this shit up soon anyways. There we go. Must be back from commercials.
Wage against Yemen that have caused tens and thousands of Syrian civilians to die and to starve. And I would make sure that we stop supporting terrorists like Al-Qaeda in Syria, who've been the ground force in this ongoing regime change war.
Yep.
I'd like to ask Senator Warren if she would join me in calling for an end to this regime change war in Syria, finally.
Uh-oh.
So I think that we ought to get out of the Middle East.
Oh, that was a pregnant pause.
But we have to do it the right way, the smart way.
Oh, okay.
What this president
Okay,
has
Lizzie,
done
let's hear it, Professor.
is that
Let's
he
hear
has
it.
sucked up to dictators. He has made impulsive decisions that often his own team doesn't understand. He has cut and run on our allies.
What?
And he has enriched himself at the expense of the United States of America. In Syria, he has created a bigger than ever humanitarian crisis. He has helped ISIS get another foothold.
Tulsi, call her out. Tulsi, interrupt. Call her out. Interrupt. Come
I talked
on.
with our military leaders about
you,
this.
Senator.
I was in Iraq and went through the neighborhoods
Come on,
that
Tulsi,
ISIS
interrupt.
destroyed. We need to
Thank
get
you.
out, but we need to do this through a negotiated solution. There is
thank you,
no
Senator.
military solution
Mayor
in this
Buttigieg,
region.
Mayor Buttigieg, like many of your fellow candidates on the stage, you've been calling for an end to endless wars. What's your response on Syria?
Well, respectfully, Congresswoman, I think that is dead wrong. The slaughter going on in Syria is not a consequence of American presence. It's a consequence of a withdrawal and a betrayal by this president of American allies.
We were
and
backing
American
al-Nusra.
Look, I didn't think
we
should
were
have gone to
backing
Iraq in the first place.
al-Nusra.
I think we need to get out of Afghanistan. But it's also the case that a small number of specialized special operations forces and intelligence capabilities were the only thing that stood between that part of Syria and what we're seeing now, which is the beginning of a genocide and the resurgence of ISIS. Meanwhile, soldiers in the field are reporting that
the solution is there is no end. There is no, like, I mean, I can't stand that she doesn't call them out. I would have called out both of these fucking faggots. They have no strategy. There is no end.
For the first time, they feel ashamed of what their country has done. We saw the spectacle, the horrifying sight of a woman with the lifeless body of her child in her arms, asking what the hell happened to American leadership.
Fight your own wars. Fight your own battles.
And when I was deployed, I knew one of the things keeping me safe was the fact that the flag on my shoulder represented a country known to keep its word. And our allies knew it, and our enemies.
You fucking nigger! We've been there for 20 fucking years! For almost my entire fucking life, we have been fighting there, and we have accomplished nothing!
Thank you, Mayor.
You take that away, you are taking away what makes America America.
Thank you, Mayor.
It makes our troops and the world a much more dangerous place.
Congresswoman Gettr, your response.
Yeah, absolutely. So really what you're saying, Mayor Pete, is that you would continue to support having U.S. troops in Syria for an indefinite period of time.
Yes.
To continue this regime change war that has caused so many refugees to flee Syria, that you would continue to have our country involved in a war that has undermined our national security. You would continue this policy of the U.S. actually providing arms and support to terrorist groups in Syria, like Al-Qaeda, HTS, al-Nusra, and others,
fucking owned.
because they are the ones who have been
Neocon
the
faggot,
in this
get
regime
owned.
change war. That's really what you're saying.
Sell out faggot, get owned.
Or you can put an end to endless war without embracing Donald
Will
Trump's
you end the
policy
regime
as you're
change
doing.
war is the question.
What we are doing.
What is an endless war if it's
Allow
not
him to
yet
respond.
another regime change
Exactly. Get
Please allow him to
owned.
respond.
What we are doing,
Get
or what we
owned.
were doing in Syria, was keeping our word. Part of what makes it possible for the United States to get people to put their lives on the line to back us up is the.
They never fucking win! They never fucking win their own fucking wars! We've been there 20 fucking years! They still don't pick up arms to defend their own fucking nation, their own fucking tribes. Oh my fucking god, I'm gonna have an aneurysm with this
idea
piece
that we
of
will
shit.
back them up too. When I was deployed,
We're
not
fighting
just
their
the
fucking
Afghan
wars
National
for
Army
them.
forces,
They're
but
unwilling to
Gettr
fight it
put their lives on the line
themselves.
just by working with U.S. forces. I would have a hard time today looking an Afghan civilian or soldier in the eye after what just happened.
I don't
over
care.
there.
Fuck them.
And it is
Fuck
undermining the
them.
honor of our soldiers.
Fight your
You
own
take away
wars.
the
Win
honor
your
of our
own
soldiers, you
battles.
might as well go after
Bleed
their
your
body
own
armor.
blood.
This
Invest your
president
own money
has
in
betrayed
lives.
American values.
Do
Our
it
credibility
yourself.
is tattered. I will restore
God
U.S. credibility
damn.
before it is finally too late.
Senator Sanders,
God
is
damn.
Turkey still a U.S. ally? Should they remain in NATO?
I'm sorry, say that
Is
again?
Turkey still a U.S. ally? Should they remain in NATO?
No, Turkey is not a U.S. ally when they invade another country and engage in.
What did we do? What the fuck did we do, Bernie? Can you guys believe that I switched parties? Can anyone think of a reason why I switched parties? Can anyone think of a single reason? There is a few. Can anyone think of a single reason why I switched parties?
Mass slaughter. The crisis here, as I think Joe said and Pete said, is when you begin to betray people, and in terms of the Kurds, 11,000 of them died fighting ISIS, 20,000 were wounded. And the United States said,
tribal
"We're
warfare,
with you.
woo,
We're
tribal
standing with
war."
you." And then suddenly one day, after a phone call with Erdogan, announced by tweet, Trump reverses that policy. Now you tell me, what country in the world will trust the word of the President of the United States. In other words, what he has done is wreck our ability to do
you're right. People in the chat saying Tulsi's being pretty tame. I agree.
Nobody
she should have interrupted Warren for sure.
But this is really important because what this president has done shows that American leadership shapes the behavior of our allies, or sometimes allies too. Remember, the problem right now is not just that with our competitors. And for example, a place like China, the people of Hong Kong rise up for democracy and don't get a peep of support from the president. It's not just the behavior of adversaries like Russia, but our one-time allies like Saudi Arabia, which the CIA just concluded was responsible, as we all knew, for murdering and dismembering an American resident and journalist, and Turkey, which was an American ally. That's the point. We had leverage, but when we abandon the international stage, when we think our only choices are between endless war or total isolation, the consequence is the disappearance of U.S. leadership from the world stage, and that makes this entire world a more dangerous place.
Senator Klobuchar, should Turkey remain in NATO?
We need to work with our allies.
So, is the President of the United States, do they have the authority to kick a member out of NATO? I know the answer to that fucking question.
To work with Turkey and bring them out. This is an outrageous thing that happened here, and I think we need to talk about this not only in terms of the horror of what happened here with Turkey, but the fact that our president blew it, and now he's too proud to say it. And what do we do now?
Blew what?
We continue that humanitarian aid, but then we work with our allies to say, come back, Turkey, and stop this, because what Mayor Pete has just said is true. Think about our other allies, Israel. How do they feel right now? Donald Trump is not true to his word. When
trust me, they know how we feel right now. They're listening to our phone call. They're listening to the White House. They're listening. They know. Mossad knows. Don't worry.
The bag and gives the power to China and Russia.
Thank you,
Think about the nuclear agreement with Russia that he precipitously pulled out of. This is part of a pattern. It's not an isolated
Thank you,
incident.
Senator Harris, given that the U.S. abandoned our Kurdish allies, what would you do as president to convince the rest of the world that we can still be trusted?
That's a great question, Anderson, because the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America
hold on. What actual diplomatic agreement do we have with the Kurds? Can anyone explain that to me? What was the nature of our agreement, if any, with the Kurds? You're saying our ally. When you say ally, that implies a diplomatic military agreement. That is what an ally is. So let's stop with the bullshit propaganda language, please.
One of her greatest priorities and responsibilities to concern herself with the security of our nation and homeland. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee. I have over a period of...
the security of our homeland, also known as the last 20 years spinning our tires in the fucking Middle East, accomplishing nothing.
Time received clap.
Okay, you have to understand, this is not the Republican debates back in 2004. This is the Democratic debates in 2019. They're all neocons except fucking Tulsi. Everyone on the stage is in favor of fucking the Middle East quagmire. Except Tulsi Gabbard. Everyone.
Classified information about the threats to our security and hotspots around the world. What has happened in Syria is yet again Donald Trump selling folks out. And in this case, he sold out the Kurds, who, yes, fought with us and thousands died in our fight against ISIS. And let's be clear, what Donald Trump has done because of that phone call with Erdogan.
ISIS was a creation of the Obama administration, by the way. That's the fucking elephant in the room.
Is basically giving 10,000 ISIS fighters a get-out-of-jail-free card. And you know who the winner is in this? There are four. Russia, Iran, Assad, and ISIS. This is a crisis of Donald Trump's making.
Not all of them are allied, by the way. And there's absolutely nothing that we can do about Iran, about Syria, and Russia without a hot war. And you don't have the fucking balls, literally, to win any of those wars. So spare me the fucking nonsense.
And it is on a long list of crises of Donald Trump's making, and that's why do gotta go, and when I am commander-in-chief, we will stop this madness.
Secretary Castro, your response.
Well, I mean, you asked the question of how are we going to get people to trust us again. The first thing is we got to boot Donald Trump out of the Oval Office so that people trust us again. I also want people to think the folks
You're
this
the
week that
smattering
saw
of
those
claps.
images of ISIS prisoners running free, to think about how absurd it is that this president is caging kids on the border and effectively letting ISIS prisoners run free. He has made a tremendous mistake, a total disaster there in Syria. And just to connect the dots for a second, if you're Kim Jong-un, for instance, why in the world would you believe anything that this president says to contain your nuclear weapons program when he tore up an Iran nuclear agreement that we just signed 4 years ago, which was the strongest agreement to contain Iran's nuclear weapons program, and now he's abandoned the very people that we gave our word to? I would make sure that
They were also violating
work with
it.
our allies to pressure Syria to stop the aggression. And I support efforts at stronger sanctions than this president has announced.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Senator Booker, the American intelligence community says that Russia is trying to capitalize on the power vacuums around the world, as we're seeing right now in northern Syria.
God.
What specifically would you do as president to check Vladimir Putin's power on the world stage?
So first of all, understand that this president is turning the moral leadership of this country into a dumpster fire. We literally have great generals like Mattis, who said on the world stage, the United States of America, there can be no better...
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Mattis resign? Such a brave man.
...friend in the United States of America, and no greater enemy than the United States of America. This president has turned that upside down, and now is doing things to undermine our critical alliances and partner with Russia. And so clearly, to your question, number one, we cannot allow the Russians to continue to grow in influence by abandoning the...
They're not growing in influence. What? What I love is Russia has so little power in the world geopolitically. So little power. It's like, meanwhile, China's expanding like a fucking weed, but no one gives a shit because all these people are probably getting kickbacks.
The world stage. We cannot allow Russia to not only interfere in the democracies of the Ukraine and Latvia and Lithuania, but even not calling them out for their efforts to interfere in this democracy.
I wonder what Joe Biden's opinion is on China.
Russia and Putin understand strength, and this president, time and time again, is showing moral weakness. He makes promises to the American people that he's going to protect this nation. Well, instead of doing something to defeat ISIS, he's now given them a foothold again. This is an American president that even right now is lying to the American public and saying he's bringing our troops home. At the same time, he's increasing troop presence with the Saudis, and while they're involved in an unjust war that is killing tens of thousands of children in Yemen. This president is making us less safe. He is partnering more with Putin than he is.
Saudi Arabia is actually a military ally. And no matter what you want to say about him, I don't like him either. Let's say, while you're up there pontificating and talking about nothing, why don't we see some unredacted Senate reports on 9/11? How about that? And talk about Saudi Arabia. But while they are a military ally, what is your fucking point?
He is with Merkel and Macron. And as President of the United States, I will stop this and restore American integrity abroad.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay.
Vice President.
I think it doesn't make me any better or worse, but maybe the only person who spent extensive time alone with Putin as well as with Erdogan. And Erdogan understands that. You talk about should he stay in or out of NATO. He understands that he's out of NATO, he's in real trouble. But the fact of the matter is we have been unwilling in this administration because we have an erratic, crazy president who knows not a damn thing about foreign policy and operates out of fear for his own reelection.
Okay.
Think what's happened. The fact of the matter is you have Russia in...
By the way, what does that fucking tell you? What does that fucking tell you? Oh, he's only trying to look out for the election. What, like... Doesn't that then beg the question? You guys are all up here talking about endless war in the Middle East, and he's talking about America first. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Influencing and trying to break up NATO. What does the president do? He says, I believe Vladimir Putin. I believe Vladimir Putin. I don't believe our intelligence community.
I'm Vladimir Putin.
No, I'm not.
I don't trust the fucking CIA there, Joe. Thank you.
No, I'm not. But here, look, but here's the deal. Think what that did. He turns around and he questions whether or not he'll keep the sacred commitment of Article 5 for the NATO members. If he is reelected, I promise you, there will be no NATO. Our security will be vastly underrated. We will be in real trouble.
Okay, I don't even need to go into it, but like NATO, its entire purpose ultimately died with the end of the Soviet Union. I'm not saying that we should get rid of NATO, because I think that it is in effect a military influence for the United States on Europe, but its purpose died with the Soviet Union. Like I say, the point in keeping it is American influence, and that's kind of it.
And with regard to regime change in Syria, that has not been the policy to change the regime. It has been to make sure that the regime did not wipe out hundreds and thousands of...
How many fucking people do you think watching this currently even know what NATO stands for? How many people do you think watching this stupid fucking debate even knows what the abbreviation of NATO is for? How many? What percentage? I'm thinking like 10%, max.
Innocent people between there and the
and all 10% of boomers.
Iraqi border. And last...
Yes, we must be unafraid in ensuring that we hold Russia accountable for invading the world's greatest democracy. And being able to do it, thanks to Donald Trump, functionally with impunity so far, so much so that they are invading this democracy right now as we speak, still at the invitation of this president. So if there are not consequences, we will continue to see this problem going forward. But in addition, y además, to answer the previous question that you asked, how do we stand up to Russia on the global stage? We do that by renewing our alliances and our friendships. That is what makes America stronger. There isn't enough money in this country. There aren't enough service members as brave and courageous as they are to do everything that we want to accomplish militarily around the world. And the Kurds are case in point. In fact, because we turned our backs on them, those Kurds who fought for us in Syria helped to defeat...
Bullshit! Dude, the fucking Kurds have only ever fought for themselves. Spare me that shit.
ISIS, not just for themselves, but for the United States of America. It makes it more likely that we will have to send another generation of service members to fight those battles there. And then lastly, as General Mattis, who was invoked earlier, has said, we have two powers, one of intimidation and one of inspiration. We need to now focus on that latter power and make sure that we invest in diplomacy in our State Department and peacefully and nonviolently resolving our foreign policy goals, not on the backs of 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds anymore, but making sure that our diplomats are invested in, have the focus necessary by this next president to make sure that they can accomplish those goals for this country and for the world.
Thank you, Congressman. Mr. Steyer, would you publicly reveal what the U.S.
Not
knows
a lot of
about
substance
Putin's
to that.
corruption or work to freeze his bank accounts? Please.
Why are we still talking about Russia?
As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Trump's America First program, which involves having no plans, having no process, and having no partners.
What the fuck are your plans outside of endless platitudes about, America's role in the world? Like, and how is it distinct in any way from George W. Bush from 2000? How is it any different?
It's proved to be a disaster in Syria. It's proved to be a disaster in terms of our response to Russia's attacking our democracy. And more than that, when we look at the problems around the world, the idea that the United States is going to act unilaterally against a country without the support of our traditional allies makes absolutely no sense. Let's go to the most...
So if you want a fucking a red pill from me on stage about America's allies, blah, 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 my answer would be America has no true allies. We have temporary alliances that are for aligned interests or for directly and almost exclusively America's interest. Where did our alliance come with Germany? Where did our alliance come with Japan? Where did a bunch of our alliances come from? Many of our alliances come from us waging war across the world and winning. Also, after the Second World War, becoming an economic powerhouse. After the end of the last century, after the fall of the Soviet Union, we have no true alliances. And you can see that in Germany, you can see that in Israel, you can see that in France, you can see that in so many fucking nations. We don't have any allies. We have temporary alliances, we have aligned interests, and we have agreements that were agreed to after surrender, foreign surrender.
Important international problem that we're
Saturday night and ask her what she's doing. Sorry.
I'm fine with it skipping
This was
ahead.
much more serious than that. This was actually invading our election. So to protect ourselves in 2020, what we need, one, backup paper ballots in every single state. That is the bill that I need, and we need to stop Mitch McConnell from stopping that from happening. And then we need to stop the social media companies from running paid political ads, including ones last time in rubles, without having to say where those ads came from and who paid for them. That's the Honest Ads Act. That's a bipartisan bill that I lead, and we can't wait to become
Senator.
president to get that done. We need to get it done now.
Thank you, Senator. We want to turn back to domestic issues and the epidemic of gun violence in this country. We're less than 100 miles.
So to explain really quickly, because I see some people talking about it in the chat, what I mean by what I'm saying is, in terms of realpolitik, there is no such thing as what is a permanent alliance. There is no such thing. Like, if you think that we owe something to these other nations that are not us, you are incorrect. Yeah, well, realism in terms of international relations is the only functional model. And that is why I am a realist in terms of international relations. Anything outside of that is fucking utopian nonsense. Has tried or failed. Tried and failed, I mean. Or is an unworkable model that it would never be put in place.
From Dayton, Ohio.
And by the way, every Democratic president ever that's gone on stage and talked about all this bullshit has always operated as a realist. Air Force One was a movie that was in reference to Bill Clinton's presidency and his intervention of the world. Barack Obama intervened in the world more than George W. Bush did, objectively speaking. Go back. JFK did. Find me a fucking Democrat. LBJ did. Find me a Democrat that wasn't a fucking realist.
Ohio were 2 months ago.
Like mine in El Paso. So I expect my fellow Americans to follow the law the same way that we enforce any.
They're not idealists. They're fucking lying.
We don't go.
That's what I'm saying mainly. They're not idealists. They're fucking lying.
I expect Republicans, Democrats, gun owners, non-gun owners alike
Congressman,
to
let me
respect
follow
and
up.
follow the law.
Just to follow up, your expectations
Dude,
aside.
yes, even fucking Carter was intervening. Go look it up.
Your website says you will find people who don't give up their weapons. That doesn't take those weapons off the street. So to be clear, exactly how are you going to take away weapons from people who do not want to give them up and you don't know where they are?
If someone does not turn in an AR-15 or an AK-47, one of these weapons of war, or brings it out in public and brandishes it in an attempt to intimidate, as we saw when we were at Kent State recently, then that weapon will be taken from them. If they persist, there will be other consequences from law
If they commit a felony, we're going to take your weapon. Thanks, Beta.
enforcement. But the expectation is that Americans will follow the law. I believe in this country. I believe in my fellow Americans. I believe that they will do the right thing.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor Buttigieg, just yesterday you referred to mandatory buybacks as confiscation and said that Congressman O'Rourke has been picking a fight to try to stay relevant. Your response on guns.
Well, Congressman, you just made it clear that you don't know how this is actually going to take weapons off the streets. If you can develop the plan further, I think we can have a debate about it, but we can't wait. People are dying in the streets right now. We can't wait for universal background checks that we finally have a shot.
We already have them. Shut up.
We can't wait to ban the sale of new weapons and high-capacity magazines so we don't wind up with millions more of these things on the street. We can't wait for red flag laws.
All I know is that after we passed the New York SAFE Act, just 650 just gone overnight. I swear to God, man, it's like nothing else I've ever seen in my life. Andrew Cuomo, Plastic Andy, passed a magazine constriction for he wanted 6. He settled for 10 in the courts, and 650 just gone, disappeared, solved.
That are going to disarm domestic abusers and prevent suicides, which are not being talked about nearly enough as a huge part of the gun violence epidemic in this country.
Yeah, that's true.
We cannot wait for purity tests. We have to just get something done.
This is not a purity test. This is a country that loses 40,000 of our fellow Americans every year to gun violence. This is a crisis, and we've got to do something about it. And those challenges that you
talked about
described are
suicide.
not mutually
There you go.
exclusive to the challenges that I'm describing. I want to make sure we have universal background checks and red flag laws, and that we end the sale of these weapons of war. But to use the analogy of healthcare, it would be as though we said, look, we're for primary care, but let's not talk about mental health care because that's a bridge too far. People need that primary care now, so let's save that for another day. No, let's decide what we are going to believe in, what we are going to achieve, and then let's bring this country together in order to do that. Listening to my fellow Americans, to those moms who demand action, to those students who march for our lives, who in fact came up with this extraordinary, bold peace plan that calls for mandatory buybacks, let's follow their inspiration and lead and not be limited by the polls and the consultants and the focus groups. Let's do what's right while we have time.
All I know is that in London, they banned knife crime, and bam, just violence stopped.
To do what's right.
Mayor Buttigieg?
The problem isn't the polls. The problem is the policy. And I don't need lessons from you on courage, political or personal. Everyone on this stage is determined to get something done. Everyone on this stage recognizes, or at least I thought we did, that the problem is not other Democrats who don't agree with your particular idea of how to handle this. The problem is the National Rifle Association and their enablers in Congress, and we should be united in taking the fight to them.
That's a mischaracterization. Anderson, I got to answer this. Never took you or
we are at the cusp of building a new American
I don't even care. Skip. Go
to
ahead.
actually do things that congressmen and senators have been talking about with almost no impact for my entire adult life. No, this is really important, okay? On guns, we are this close to an assault weapons ban. That would be huge. And we're going to get wrapped around the axle in a...
Yeah, for the next election cycle, for fucking Republicans to take the House and gain seats in the Senate. Yes, go ahead. Go ban assault rifles and fucking see what happens in the next election, you tards.
Debate over whether it's hell yes, we're going to take your guns. We have an opportunity to deliver health care to everybody. And some on this stage are saying it doesn't count.
Senator Booker, I want to give other
candidates
candidates a chance. Senator Booker, what's your response to Mayor Buttigieg?
Well, look, I again worry about how we talk to each other and about each other, and what this last week has shown. As a young man in my neighborhood, I watched him grow up. I lived in some high-rise projects with him named Shahad, and he was murdered on my block last year with an assault rifle. I'm living with a sense of urgency on this problem because...
So he was like one of like 1% of crimes? How many fucking people are killed with an assault rifle? Out of all violent crimes, it's like less than 6% total. That's an incredibly rare occurrence.
When I go home to my community, like millions of Americans, we live in communities where these weapons, where these gunshots are real every single day. And I know where the American public is. This is not about leadership. This is why when I talk about things like gun licensing and point out the differences between us, I'm not attacking people or their character or their
Tell us another story. I love Will in the chat. Tell us another story, Booker. You're right, yeah.
77% of Americans agree on licensing. We don't need leadership right now. We just need folks that are going to stand up and follow where the people already are, because there are millions of Americans where this is a daily nightmare, where we're surrendering our freedoms to fear in this country. This is the first time in American history, this fall, where we have sent our children to school, the strongest nation on the planet Earth, and said to them, we can't protect you.
Thank you,
so
Senator.
in school, we're going to teach you how to hide. There are more duck and cover drills and shelter-in-place drills in America now than fire drills.
Thank you,
if
Senator.
I'm President of the United States, I will bring an urgency to this issue and
Senator
make sure
Klobuchar.
that we end the scourge of mass violence in our
Senator
country.
Klobuchar, Senator Warren supports a voluntary. Senator Klobuchar, you support a voluntary buyback, if I'm correct, right? What is wrong with a mandatory buyback?
Oh, fuck.
I just keep thinking of how close we are to finally getting something done on this. I'm looking at the mayor of Dayton. I met one of the survivors from that shooting. 30 seconds, 9 people killed. The public is with us on this in a big way.
No, they're not.
The majority of Trump voters want to see universal background checks right now.
Because they're fucking
The majority
dumb
of
then.
hunters want
They're
to see
dumb
us move
if they agree
forward
with that.
with
We
gun
already
safety
have
legislation.
them.
There are 3 bills right now on Mitch McConnell's desk. The background check bill, my bill to close the boyfriend loopholes, the domestic abuse.
Seriously, what the fuck would the difference be if it's not just an actual federal registry? What the fuck is the difference when we already have that system?
Users don't get guns. The bill to make it easier for police to
people.
Good.
But the
Get out of the
problem
way,
here
Karis.
that we need to focus on is first how widespread gun violence is. As you've rightly identified, it's not just about mass shootings. It's what happens in neighborhoods all across this country.
Yes.
It is about suicide. It is about domestic
No.
violence. This is not going to be a one and done. That we do one thing or 2 things
All
or 3
right,
things and
we
then we're
might have
done.
been approaching the real
We have
issue.
to reduce gun violence overall, and the question we have to ask is why hasn't it happened? You say we're so close. We have been so close. I stood in the United States Senate.
Oh,
in
goddamn the Supreme
2013
Court!
when
God damn them, they
54
keep
senators
destroying our
voted
illegal,
in
unconstitutional
favor
bills.
of gun
Ah, god damn it.
legislation, and it didn't pass because of the filibuster.
Senator-
We have got to attack
Bull-
the corruption.
bullshit. It's the Supreme Court. Bullshit. The Supreme Court is who keeps getting rid of all of these fucking laws.
And repeal the
Senator
filibuster,
Harris?
or the gun industry will always have a veto over what happens.
Senator Harris, you disagree with Senator Warren. You think the buyback should be mandatory. Please respond.
Oh my fucking
5
god.
million assault weapons are on the streets of America.
It's so unbelievable. Like, they all agree with each other. It's like, should we have a wealth tax that is proven not to work? Yes. Should we have a mandatory buyback in which is going to result in a civil war? Yes. Except for Elizabeth Warren, who wants a gun registry first.
Today, during the course of this debate, 8 people will die from gun violence.
Oh,
The leading
where are
cause
they?
of
Who
death
shot 'em?
of young black men in America is gun violence.
That's correct.
More than the top other 6 reasons. total.
Yes.
This is a
Harris.
serious matter.
Whatever your
I
fucking name
have
is, Harris.
Personally hugged more mothers of homicide victims than I care to tell
I
you.
believe you.
I have looked at more autopsy photographs than
I
care to tell
believe you.
I have attended more police officer funerals
I believe
than I care
you.
to tell you.
I believe you.
I'm done.
Who's pulling the
And we need
trigger?
action. And Congress has had years to act and failed because they do not have the courage. When I'm
man.
elected, I'll give them 100 days to pull their act together, put a bill on my desk.
They're
for
not
signature.
gonna
If they
solve
don't,
it.
I will take executive action and put in place a comprehensive background check requirement and ban the import.
It's not gonna fucking solve anything. It's not gonna solve fucking anything. Over half of guns used are like, it's like 90-something% are fucking pistols. And over half are illegal firearms. Your fucking laws don't matter.
Importation of assault weapons into our country.
I've done this.
Good,
I know how
Skip.
to get it done. If you really want to get it done, go after the gun manufacturers and take back the exemption they have of not being able to be sued.
Thank you, Mr.
That will
Vice
change.
President.
It's not gonna
Secretary,
change anything.
Castro, the vast majority of homicides committed with a gun in this country are from handguns, not
Yes!
assault-style
Thank
weapons.
Christ.
What's your plan to prevent those deaths?
Thank you very much for the question.
Nothing!
You know, I grew up in neighborhoods where it wasn't uncommon to hear gunshots at night, and I can remember ducking in the backseat of a car when I was a freshman in high school, across the street from my school, my public school, because folks were shooting at each other. You know, In the neighborhoods, though, let me answer this question about voluntary versus mandatory. There are two problems I have with mandatory buybacks. Number one, folks can't define it. And if you're not going to door to door, then it's not really mandatory.
Yes.
But also,
agreed.
In the places that I grew up in, we weren't exactly looking for another reason for cops to come banging on the door.
Yeah,
and y'all saw a couple of days ago what happened to Tatiana Jefferson in Fort Worth.
Yes.
A cop showed up at 2 in the morning at her house when she was playing video games with her nephew. He didn't even announce himself, and within 4 seconds, he shot her and killed her through her home window.
Yes.
She was in her own home. And so I am not going to
give
he
was
these
in her
police
backyard.
officers another reason to go door to door in certain communities, because police violence is also gun violence, and we need to address that.
Well, I can't argue. Good point. I'll give one to Booker.
To another key issue here in Ohio and around the country, the opioid epidemic. Senator Klobuchar, CNN reached out to Ohio Democratic voters for their most pressing questions. Bree
in certain communities,
Proctorville asks, in rural Ohio, the opioid epidemic has affected our communities and schools. I have many high school students who have lost one or both parents to heroin. Teachers are on the front lines daily witnessing these tragedies. How will you tackle this problem in general? But specifically, what will you offer people in rural communities where rehabilitation is not easy?
Fuck whites. That's the only answer that the Democrats have for rural Americans. If you are listening to this and you live in a rural area, you know what their answer is to you? Fuck you if you are white.
Easily accessed, and access to jobs is difficult.
Well, I want to thank her for this question. This is something that should never have happened to begin with. I remember when I was a prosecutor, these were not the kind of cases.
Oh my
that
God,
were
she's a
coming in our
prosecutor
door.
too?
And it's gotten worse and worse. And we now know why. As the evidence is coming out of those lawsuits, probably one of the most horrible things that I saw was the email from one of the pharma executives that actually said, keep pumping them out. They're eating them like Doritos. So my first answer to that question, and which is included in my plan,
what? Sue the pharmaceutical companies?
That should
What?
pay for this, that should pay for the treatment, are the very people that got people hooked and killed them in the first place.
You're not going to do
And that
shit.
is the people that are manufacturing these opioids.
You're not going to do
That's the
shit.
first way. And you can, with a 2 cents per milligram tax, bring in the money, plus with the federal master settlement, to help in rural areas where they're so isolated, and also in urban areas where it's, by the way, not just opiates. There's still meth issues and crack cocaine issues.
Yeah.
This is personal for me. My dad, he struggled with alcoholism his whole life. And by his third DWI, they said to him, the prosecutor, you got to face jail or you got to go to treatment. He picked treatment, and he was pursued by Grace. And he has been sober ever since. And now he's 91 and in assisted living. And he said to me last year, it's hard to get a drink around here anyway. But he still has an AA group that visits him there. And so for me, I believe that everyone in this country, including the people in rural America, have that same right to be pursued by Grace.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Steyer, how would you address the opioid epidemic?
It's not a bad answer, but it's a fucking Ben Shapiro answer. It's well, we just need more religion. Well, people are leaving the pews. What is your fucking solution? Yes, people are becoming more atheistic, and they're struggling with that. What is your solution? Well, people should go back to the pews. Well, they left them. They're out of the church, Ben. They're out of the church, Amy. How do we get them back in? Daddy, Uncle Sam is going to solve that fucking problem.
That exists here in Ohio and around the country. Please respond.
Hold on our government. I've put forward actual structural changes, including term limits, a national referendum, the end to the idea that corporations are people and have the rights of American citizens
it's constitutional precedent.
and make it a lot easier to vote. These corporations have taken over our government, and 72,000 deaths last year are the tragic result.
Mr. Yang,
yeah, you're not going to solve that.
Criminalize the possession and use of small amounts of opioids, including heroin. How would that solve the crisis?
That's exactly right. And we have to recognize this is a disease of capitalism run amok. There was a point when there were more opiate prescriptions in the state of Ohio than human beings in the state of Ohio. And for some reason, the federal government thought that was appropriate. They ended up levying a $600 million fine against Purdue Pharma, which sounds like a lot of money, until you realize that company made $30 billion. They got a 2% fine, and they killed tens of thousands of Americans 8 an hour. So if the government turned a blind eye to this company spreading a plague among its people, then the least we can do is put the resources to work in our communities so our people have a fighting chance to get well. Even though this is not a money problem, we all know this is a human problem. And part of helping people get the treatment that they need is to let them know that they're not going to be referred to a prison cell. They will be referred to treatment and counseling. I talked to an EMT in New Hampshire, and he said he saves the same addicts over and over again. Because the fact is, after you save someone who's ODing, you just bring them back to their house and they OD again the following week. So we need to decriminalize opiates for personal use. We have to let the country know this is not a personal failing. This was a systemic government failing. And then we need to open up safe consumption and safe injection sites around the country because they save lives.
Oh, no, I'm not in
Thank you,
favor
Mr.
of
Yang.
safe injection.
Congressman
No
O'Rourke,
way.
Is decriminalizing opioids part of the solution? Please respond.
Yes, it is, for many of the reasons that Mr. Yang just described. And also just from some personal experiences I've had as a member of Congress where constituents of mine have come forward, in some cases publicly, at a town hall meeting to describe their addictions. I remember a veteran telling me that he bought heroin off the street because he was originally prescribed an opioid at the VA. Now, imagine if that veteran, instead of being prescribed an opioid, had been prescribed marijuana because we made that legal in America, ensured the VA could prescribe it, expunged the arrest records for those who've been arrested for possession, and made sure that he was not prescribed something to which he would become addicted. I also want to agree with Senator Klobuchar. Until we hold those responsible accountable for their actions, Purdue Pharma, Johnson & Johnson, we're going to continue to have this problem going on.
You
again.
started
So
out better
that
than you
veteran that I
finished,
met,
Beto.
and anyone with drug addiction today is not a problem for the criminal justice system. They are an opportunity
Thank you,
for our public
Congressman.
health system in
Senator
America.
Harris, you
Started
want
out
to
better
hold
than
the
he
drug
finished.
manufacturers that fueled the crisis accountable. Are you in favor of sending those drug company executives to jail?
I am. And I will tell you, as a former prosecutor, I do think of this as being a matter of justice and accountability because they are nothing more than some high-level dope dealers. They have been engaged. And I've seen it happen before. I've taken on the pharmaceutical companies when I was Attorney General of California and led the second largest Department of Justice. I've seen what they do. The biggest pharmaceutical companies, the 8 biggest pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies last year profited $72 billion on the backs of people like the families that we are talking about that have been overwhelmed by this crisis, which is a public...
Here's a hot take for you guys. At least the pharmaceutical companies produce something. What are any of you producing? What is any of this producing? At least they're producing something.
Public health epidemic, and they knew what they were doing. They were marketing false advertising. They knew what they were pushing in communities and states like Ohio without any concern about the repercussions because they were profiting and making big bucks. And yes, they should be held accountable. This is a matter of justice. And so as President of the United States, I would ensure that the United States Department of Justice understand that you want to deal with who is really a criminal. Let's end mass incarceration and end that failed war on drugs, and let's go over after these pharmaceutical companies for what they've been doing to destroy our country in states like Ohio.
Thank you, Senator. Secretary Castro, are you in favor of sending those drug company executives to prison? Please respond.
Yes, I am. They need to be held accountable not only financially but also with criminal penalties. And you can draw a straight line between making sure that we hold executives accountable, whether
the day any of these fucking companies ever face, any executive, anybody faces any kind of criminal prosecution is the day that I literally dress up as the Joker from the Joker film, as Joaquin Phoenix, and dance down that fucking stairwell in New York City. Okay? It is never gonna fucking happen, and no one on the stage is gonna do it.
it's these drug manufacturers.
Look at this opioid epidemic. You have executives, CEOs of major pharmaceutical companies making tens of millions of dollars a year. And
Billions.
in this particular case with the opioids, they knew that they were selling a product to communities all over this country which were addicting people and killing them. And last year, the top 10 drug companies made 69.
Hey, Bernie, what do you think the cigarette companies do? Hey, Bernie, what do you think the alcohol companies do? Hey, Bernie, what do you think casinos do? Hey, Bernie, what do you think fast food companies do? Hey, Bernie, the pharmaceutical companies are not alone. Many people have many different forms of vices.
$9 billion in profit. This is what unfettered capitalism is doing to this country. And it's not just the drug companies.
I have a question for you. When my father was injured, he had 2 surgeries, and he was given several pill tubes, I forget what they're called, pill bottles, of not Oxycontin, but another kind of painkiller. And he took them for a week, then underdosed himself after that, took like a percentage of what he was supposed to take in terms of the pills. And after about a month after his surgeries, threw all the pills out. Does the pharmaceutical company owe my father something? We have to face the facts of what the issue is here. And the issue is that it's... If it isn't pills, it's weed. If it isn't weed, it's heroin. If it isn't heroin, it's fast food. If it isn't fucking fast food, it's cigarettes. If it isn't cigarettes, it's gambling. If it isn't gambling, it's fucking whatever. I'm not saying that the fucking companies weren't predatory, but you don't sell where there isn't a market for something. And I guarantee you that you prosecuting these fucking companies and pumping out whatever money you get and putting into fucking American coffers to do nothing with, build some more fucking public housing, it's not going to do anything for those people addicted.
Right now,
I've done it before. I've been there when we pulled the nation out of the worst financial recession in history. I've been there, and I've got so many pieces of legislation passed, including the Affordable Care Act, as well as making sure that we had the Recovery Act, which kept us from going into depression. I know what has to be done. I will not need any on-the-job training the day I take office. And I will release my medical records, as I have 21 years of my tax records, which no one else on this stage has done, so that you can have full transparency as to my health. And
it's also because you've been in politics for 40
years.
years.
Just to be clear, Mr. Vice President, when will you release those records?
Before the first vote.
Before Iowa?
Yes.
Not by the end of this year?
Well, before Iowa. I mean, look, I've released them before. I mean, I've released 55 pages of mine. I'm the only guy that's released anything up here.
Senator Warren, like Senator Sanders and Vice President Biden, if you win the presidency, you would be the oldest president ever inaugurated in a first term. You would be 71. 40% of Democratic primary voters say they think a candidate under the age of 70 is more likely to defeat President Trump. What do you say to that?
Well, I say I will outwork, outorganize, and outlast
Bernie's way older.
anyone.
He's like 6
and
years,
that
7 years
includes
older.
Donald Trump, Mike Pence, or whoever the Republicans get stuck with. Look, the way I see this, the way we're going to win is by addressing head-on what millions of Americans know in their bones. And that is that the wealthy and the well-connected have captured our democracy, and they're making it work for themselves.
Okay, so here's another red pill for you. The well-connected are always going to be in power. The well-connected will always be in power. Like, I'm not here to say that our country doesn't have some serious fucking problems. But I hate to say it, but half the policies you're in favor of, so is corporate America.
and leaving everyone else behind. And political pundits and Washington insiders and people in our own party don't want to admit that. They think that running some kind of vague campaign that nibbles around the edges of big problems in this country is a
wow,
winning
what
strategy.
projection.
They are wrong. If all Democrats can promise is after Donald Trump it will be business as usual, then we will lose. Democrats win when we call out what's broken and we show how to fix it. Democrats will win when we fight for the thing.
The thing you think that's wrong with America? Oh, man. Dude, where do I even begin? I'm not even going to say anything.
Things that touch people's lives. Things like...
And Commander-in-Chief who is ready on day one, bringing experience and understanding in foreign policy and national security. Bringing the experience that I have, both serving in Congress now for nearly 7 years, serving on the Foreign Affairs Committee, serving on the Armed Services Committee, subcommittees related to terrorism and upcoming threats, serving on the Homeland Security Committee, the experience that I have as a soldier, serving for over 16 years in the Army National Guard, deploying twice to the Middle East, being able to serve in different capacities, joint training exercises, training the Kuwait National Guard. I understand the importance of our national security. I am prepared to do this job, to fulfill this responsibility as Commander-in-Chief on day one. I'd like to ask our other candidates this question. I'd like to start with Senator Warren. What her experience and background is.
I'm sorry, thank you. We're going to take another break now. The CNN New York Times debate live
Cut her off! Cut her off!
Here in Ohio. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Get rid of her! Okay, I'm going to have to stop there. I'm sorry that you guys didn't want to watch the clown show all night, but I actually have to get up in the morning. And I actually stayed up later than I really should have. So yes, Tulsi Gabbard is easily the best person on the stage, despite all of her hang-ups. I know. She's talking about ending the wars! Cut to commercials! We got some more super chats, though. Mitch says, Mommy Gabbard, to make us proud. Prince of Conquest says, white pill for foreign wars. I heard from a Washington councilman that Israel controls the weather, so maybe they'll be able to bomb their enemies with snow instead of with my tax dollars and our military. Well, it's half of what's going on over there, I can tell you that, from what it seems. And they trust us so much to be their allies, they spy on us. And don't apologize, don't acknowledge it, and then no one in DC gives a fuck. Alice says, thanks for the stream, Louis. Thank you, Alice, for the support. Rogue Crusader says, look up Taser King for short, funny cop video. Is that the black guy? No, what's this? I assume he's another cop. Because I've been told that cops do all kinds of stupid shit like that all the time. Alright, let me check Twitter one more time real quick before I head out. Nope, we're looking good. I have to say that I have to give a shout out to Patrick for that fucking Andrew Cuomo tweet. That was so insane. That's the most stunning thing I've seen in a while. It really is. Prince of Conquest says Bernie and Harris is about to give Big Pharma an offer they can't refuse. Oh man, I'm sure. I sincerely doubt that anyone on that stage is going to do a fucking thing about the pharmaceutical industry. But I was going to play a video. Let me see if I can find it before we go. I think... Oh, here it is. Let me mute the sound just so I can set this up properly. Ooh, which is the right one? I don't remember. I think it's this one. All right. I'm going to set this up. And this is how I'm going to bid all of you adieu. So let me double check. Oh, did I close? Oh, fuck me. Did I close the page? Yes, I did. Oops. Hang on. I got to get back on YouTube to close this out. Fuck me. I accidentally closed the wrong tab. Mistakes were made, ladies and gentlemen. Hang on. I got to get the creator page back open so I can see what the fuck I'm doing in chat. Fuck. Come on, YouTube! Stop fucking with me. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay, we're fine. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss any super chats, because people get irritated if I don't read them. Alright. Let me make sure this is exactly where it needs to be. It is. Allow me to unmute the speakers. And let me make sure this is turned up to the proper volume. And this is how I'm going to wish all of you good nights. So have a good night, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Support me on all the proper methods. And welcome to the Clown Decade.